Okay. We're going.
All right, we're going.
We're receiving live data from the, well, to the YouTubes, from the YouTubes, whatever. And the audio is recording. The sound waves do look a little small. I sound fine on my playbacks. I think everything's okay.
Okay.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, everybody. Well, since we're here, and since there's a title, we should probably begin right there. Welcome to What's Up, everybody. It's us.
It's us.
But we should probably explain where the title of the show comes from, and also some of you will be wondering where Let's Take FGO it, because people wonder that.
Yes, they do.
Though for the moment, I haven't seen people like really getting in there and like playing on the Discord or anything. Good. Especially because I tweeted about this a couple of times. But yeah, so last night, you know, we're doing the show. Everything's fine. Record for like 2 hours. Do mailbag, and then my power goes out. And honestly, this wouldn't be a super big problem. I bought a whole new battery backups for earlier this year for this reason, and everything would have been fine except my Ethernet bus hub. My Ethernet bub, is not on the battery backup because it's got a large plug shape. I think I'm gonna have to after we're done here, obviously, because we're recording, I'll turn everything off and like jiggle that around so I don't connect because our router and modem are on a separate up circuit. Those stayed up for like 2 hours on the battery, so I would have been able to like maybe rush an outro to the show, but the show still wouldn't have been able to get edited and posted until later anyway. But my power went out in the middle of the night when it was about under 60 degrees, and it stayed that way. Stayed that way for a long time. It was over 12 hours. We didn't get power back until around noon today.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. I told Lucky not to wait up when I was informed after everybody got up, because it was pretty bad. I think the whole block went out.
Oh, jeez.
I don't think it carried in the recording, especially not after post-editing, but I knew something had gone wrong because on my end I heard the transformer box somewhere blowing up, you know.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, so it did that at least twice more during the night, so it took them a while to fix it and run that problem down.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's something.
And I think some other people on the network
I think it's noble.
hearing my mother talk about, she looked at because apparently there's some other
That's
spots
just asking
around
for
Florida having a
praise.
bad way.
What
Don't know
makes
why.
it
It wasn't. It was a little windy, but it wasn't really
knows, or at least that he doesn't
how
know.
you say
I let him have the glory.
like stormy.
No one
It was
has
raining
to
a little
know
bit,
his
so I don't know
arrow
for sure what
missed.
happened. But
He saved the town.
Well, I
He's
gotta
a
say, it could be
hero.
wild animals. It could be, you know, debris falling on things. It's...
yeah, it was cold and wet, and it apparently didn't like whatever was happening to it. And like I said, if there was some problem on the grid and stuff got like overloaded, who knows?
It blew up.
Yeah, and it stayed blowed up for a while.
Yep. I was talking about the chest. I am playing a game right now.
Oh, okay. That wasn't tabbed over. But yeah, so we'll get there in a second. That's why Let's Like FGO is delayed. I could not. The files were all saved. We'd already had some tech diff, and I'd already had to create a backup, but everything was saved. The project was fine. I just couldn't access it because my ups is rated for like 10 or 15 minutes of computer time, which is not really enough to do the audio edit. So I wasn't able to edit and upload anything until today. Which I have managed to accomplish because the show wasn't very long for once.
For once.
The final time is just a little over 2 hours. But I was able to tack on an outro and wrap up some stuff and power through Fancy Friday because I didn't want to delay it another week.
Mm-hmm.
And a little sad not to get Lucky's commentary, but it's fine. I just powered through it like another 15 showtime, the edit. Audio's up for patrons, video's up for patrons. The HD version is processing now, so hopefully by tonight maybe we'll see what happens. Everything's, you know, hunky-dory.
Hunky-dory.
Otherwise it'll be tomorrow.
So, that is that.
But yeah, that's why, you know, Zeus cares not for your shows. And I mean, it wasn't really that bad. I live in Florida and have lived for some time. I am prepared for power outages.
Mm-hmm.
I had, you know, batteries and storm lights and stuff. It was fine. I read to myself, played a little Switch. So it was okay. And I can immediately go into talking about, sorry, excuse me, what I was reading, because I did. With 12 hours of power, over 12 hours of power outage time, I had plenty of time to read books. I managed to read the entirety of the Night Parade of 100 Demons. And beat a run in Hades, and then read some more of my old-ass pulp novels. I had a lot of free time in the dark. In the cold. Well, my fans are turned up. It's very cold. It's still cold. It says it's like 54 degrees outside right now. So it's a little chilly. We have a fireplace. But I can talk about that right now, or Lucky can talk about what he's doing right now. You can screen for several minutes.
Yeah. Well, I guess I can talk. So I'm playing Kingdoms of Amalur Re-Reckoning. This game came out a long time ago. I believe this was a PS3 game originally. And it definitely kind of has... It kind of feels like it's something that came from the PS2 era. I say this in a good way. But like, you open up the menu and you just look at these blocky boxes with their stats and stuff and all the extensions.
Okay, so that's a firm. Oh god, this UI is straight out of fucking PS2. That era, early 2000s PC gaming.
Oh yeah.
The game itself came out in early 2012.
Yeah.
Brash dustling. You have no role in fate.
Interesting that some of the members on the team behind designing it was Todd McFarlane and R.A. Salvatore.
Yeah. Like, it actually has like some big names behind it. And when I first played it, like
now that you've mentioned it, I can't not see it with the UI. I'm like, wow, you're right. This is really old school UI. Giant text box and the font. Jeez, graphics seem nice though.
Well, like I said, this is the re version. This is this is Re-Reckoning. The original was just called Reckoning. So they basically talk about how they updated graphics, tweaks, and all that crazy stuff. The modeling is still a little off, but hey, everyone looks smooth at least. But
that happens sometimes with the remasters. They don't really do stuff with the. They remap the texture so they're in higher def. They don't necessarily redo any of the animations. I bring it up too much, but I did see some of the like Assassin's Creed 2 remaster, and all the textures are really nice because they just bumped their textures, which are based on real life buildings in Italy and shit. The facial animations can't be fixed because that's not how you do a remaster. So. That people's faces are still very derpy. So yeah, it happens. There's only so much you can do when you remaster.
Like lovers, the grave thresh, when it returns to its lair, the thresh is embraced by Gorgoath, wrapped in a warm. Alas, Agros is a.
Yeah. So Kings of Amalur, it's an interesting story. They do kind of the Skyrim thing of you are nobody. Well, I shouldn't say Skyrim. Elder Scrolls thing is you're a nobody. But in such game as an Elder Scrolls, when you start in prison, in this game you just start off dead. I think it's like one of the great great things in the opening. They're speaking about how everything is ruined, everything's going to shit, but all that changed when you died. Because the premise of this story is you got resurrected from something called the Well of Souls as a measure for against the Tuatha, because guess what, this game really likes to borrow from its Scottish.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like I'm like there's a lot of little islands and there's a lot of little nations in that island, god damn it. So likes to borrow from that. It's like, oh, I can open this. Unusual means. But basically you are, you know, the people of man who live among the Fae, and there's the summer and winter courts. But for some odd reason, the winter court went crazy, and now they're calling themselves the Tuatha, and now they want to conquer fucking everything. And the summer court's all like, that's cool, yo, we're just gonna do our thing. But the humans are all like, no, we're dying, save us. And the thing about the Fae is that they are, you know, closer to gods than the men, and so they do things weirdly, and everyone's just all like, they don't actually die, they just, you know, kind of fall down and come back later, and how do you fight a war against that? The answer was the Well of Souls.
That's also definitely a very much a Celtic kind of thing. The idea of like the other world and where fairies go and stuff being synonymous with the underworld in some cases. It's like, yeah, no, if you go to the dead fairy place, but also that's where your regular fairies come from. Like, how does that work with dead people?
Yeah. So
there's some fluidity there.
Yeah, so they try to figure out the Well of Souls. They figure out you're the one test case, but that's when the Tuatha happen to find your shit. They break everything. You're the only test survivor. You're the only success, and probably the only survivor. And now you're going to be like, all right, well, I'm still like in the super beginning. I only started playing last night actually, after we got done with Let's Talk. But it's where was I going? So I'm still in the beginning, and you know I'm trying to get my bearings. And does that tree have a face, or is that just me? No, it's just me. I thought it had giant lips. I was like, no.
What you think this is some kind of Nintendo's games?
But so the game uses you know, yield standard level up system. And they do things, actually I would say in a very PC, very PC kind of way. Like, you have abilities, so you have basically 3 different trees. You have sorcery, might, finesse. Basically, every level up you get 3 points. You can spread them out. The more points you put into the trees, the more you unlock. Then as you put points in the trees, you unlock something called destinies. Destinies are basically your title, which gives you a little, like right now I'm a scout, which gives you a little additional bonuses. They usually have like ones that go all the way up to like tier 6 and stuff, you know, that's big stuff. And funnily enough, they also have some, you know, some mixed ones. So if you want to like mix and match, you can do some interesting stuff. Oh, what's in here? The Universalist.
This is pretty interesting. I decided to look it up. It was definitely an old style, like it was in that generation, being, you know, PS3, 360, Windows. Like, yeah, it was multi-platform, so it, you know, rolled out.
Thank you, Ferris. Unfortunately, I do not have a Monster Energy drink right now, but I do have Orange Fanta. But good morning to you.
For your super chat. But it's kind of interesting because let me actually look up what's going on, because it's very funny because I had heard a little bit about the game, like that it was fairly decent, and checking on like the background, it seems like it got a lot of positive scores, you know.
Oh yeah, no, like I love this.
80s on Metacritic, like 8 or 7 out of 10 on most outlets that were there at the time.
Yeah.
But the unfortunate thing was the studio folded like right away after this came out.
Oh yeah.
Apparently due to some issues with some government loans.
That sounds.
Yeah.
But
the state of Rhode Island became concerned over 38 Studios' finance after the company defaulted on a $1.1 million loan payment when a check was returned due to insufficient funds.
Oh no.
So yeah, it seems like basically they took out some small business loans from big government and could not pay them back, even though their game was very successful apparently, and they had to go for bankruptcy. It's kind of a shame. I'm glad to see the game, you know, kind of coming back through the re-release, which isn't new necessarily, but is free this month.
Yes.
Plus.
But like a lot of things, you have some passive skills here. They have a wide breadth. You got alchemy, You got alchemy, which is, you know, making potions, blacksmithing, making weapons.
Yeah, the very standard Western RPG stuff, you know. Your little tier perks. They got the basic advanced master.
We have so this is
on a scale of 1 to 10, Lucky. How much would you say this is just 3.5D?
Oh,
With like 10 being literally it's a Wizards product, and like 1 being like, not really.
I give it I'd say around a 5. Because, like I said, we do have...
That's kind of what I was thinking. Middle of the road.
Because we do have a lot of skills. Like, basically, every level, like, on here, basically, is like... Because I can't do it here, but, like... On the, feels like you can pick up, like, items and, like, with alchemy. Because alchemy is basically all your herb knowledge. Like, when you find something in the wild, you want to pick up some fucking, herbs, you use alchemy. But... And the higher level you do, though, it's, like... It's, you get different things. Like, each one of these is like a special thing. Like, you can craft with additional regions and all that stuff. Blacksmithing is the same thing. You can do like a variety. Like what each skill lets you do a couple of things in it. It's just not strictly one thing. Like blacksmith.
Yeah, I can see. So it's got like I can see the milestones are shown up there. So you've got. Like, this increases both the effectiveness of your repair kits and also
does other things.
Covers components.
Yeah, and then you can use 3 components when crafting. You can salvage equipment, 4 components. Salvage rare. I can now use gems as components. You can craft master craft. Detect hidden is the wild one. It's just like, here, let's just put everything on the fucking minimap. It's just like, enemies and players are on the minimap, increases the gold you find.
It's funny. Also, detect hidden instead of spot hidden.
Yeah.
Chaosium's basic roleplay, which is the same system as Call of Cthulhu, is spot hidden. It's very funny.
Yeah, but it's like, it just puts things on mini-map. Like, that's all the skill does, and you just find stuff. But it's still useful. Dispelling's the interesting one. It has, like, honestly, this is the one I kind of like, because Dispelling is basically the magical way of unlocking a chest, and lockpicking is the physical one. So basically, they have 2 different ways, so I'm like, I have to double dip if I want to be good at that. But it's also the fucking, it's also the mini-game thing, so if you're just good, you don't necessarily need either of them. It just might be a little painful. Mercantile, you know, do this one. I kind of want this one, though, because I am an evil person, and I totally steal from everybody. But I don't know any fences yet, so I'm just like, ugh.
So there's some stuff. I noticed already you've already spent a lot of points in persuasion and stealth.
Yes. I like people listening to me. I really do.
Well, I mean, in RPGs like this, this is clearly like the style of. It's usually pretty important.
Yeah. But like,
you know,
but my character I think started with like +2 stealth, +1 persuasion, and +1 sagecraft. And I think I got an item because they gave you basically all the DLC items, and so they gave you like I think a thing called a Compass of Fate, which just is just +1 persuasion. I'm like, oh okay. They also gave you something. They also gave you something called a dowsing rod. Oh yeah, there I can see them right here. That puts alchemical reagents on your minimap. It's those little green leaf things up there. But you see, like, I need the alchemy still, because I can't just literally go up to it and be like, no, you find nothing. It's just like, oh, well, okay.
So it's kind of like an optional prompt. You could, but maybe you won't.
Yeah, so combat's pretty fun. It's not the I think this is one of the problems I've always had with, like, especially like with Dragon Age 1 of it's just not, you know, run up and just boop the snoot. You actually
it's not. The original Dragon Age was very computer RPG. Like you didn't interact with anything. You just like attack that guy, and then you just attack at your speed interval, and occasionally you would do special moves, which were hotkeyed. It wasn't until 2, which I know a lot of people complained about 2 being rushed, but I think 2 did a lot for the gameplay mechanics, because that was when they switched to full action RPG. Push button, do hit.
Yes.
We should move swiftly. This is no place to linger.
What do we need to do again?
The thrush, that's right. Keep your eyes open.
I'm definitely seeing, though, it's kind of interesting to like see this like in high def like this. I see a lot of influences of a lot of other things, like obviously you've got mythological there, but those there were some bright green guys called plague bearers.
Mm-hmm.
It's very very Warhammer-esque. Nurglights, plague bearers, all that stuff. You appear to have 2 large swords and be a very dark elf.
Yeah.
considering Ari Salvatore is involved in this. It seems kind of interesting. It is free. Maybe I'll pick it up.
No, it's like I said. Oh, you did. But like I said, I really did enjoy it when I had it before, but I never actually beat it. So I was like, no, now's a good time. Now is the time to do it.
You can see the name under the stream. This is Kingdoms of Amalur Re-Rec. It's not technically new. Actually, I think the remake has been out.
Wait, did I go the wrong way? I think I did. I enjoy the fact that they're just like, here, have a fucking map. I'm like, yes, thank you. But yeah, so I'll be playing this today, and I'll be spinning around with my Feyblades. That's what they're called, by the way, Feyblades.
Let it rip.
God! Why did you turn around right then? Why did you turn around? But yeah, like, the game lets you switch between combat fairly easy. Like, you have your special abilities tied to your to the bar there, so you can just hold R2, push a button, throw ability.
The thresh has surrounded itself with allies.
Like, my primary weapon is square, my secondary weapon's triangle. You know, and X's interact, so...
Well, you got late to the stream. Well, I guess. Well, no. We've been. It's 7:17. We weren't that early. It's only been 20 minutes. You got late to the stream. Lucky I already explained why it's called Re-Reckoning. It's a remaster of a game that was already called Reckoning. So I don't. The only way to do that even more plainly would be to call it Kingdoms of Amalur Re-Reckoning Remastered, but also that would be dumb and involve too many Rees.
Give me the loot.
But before we get too much further in the episodes, I do want to remind everybody this episode is brought to you by our patrons like Adam Carr, Bonka Comics, and like Sister G, Carlos, Reagan Ferris, Jeremy Vasquez, Sandoval, Legendary Boss, Robin Kester, Reacher, Emperor, Reverend Trevor, Trinity P, some guy named Bob 23, and Varen the Crow. If you like what we do want to see some more, consider supporting on Patreon. It helps pay for me to keep buying battery backups.
We don't get power outages allowed over here, but I keep thinking I should probably just get an ups just in case.
Yeah, I mean they're not super expensive. You can get a pretty basic wattage and voltage that'll make it just so that if your power flickers or goes out for a second, your computer doesn't immediately go down. Which is good, just because that's bad for computer parts.
Yes, it is.
Sudden power loss and constant rebooting. So yeah, that's what I just did, and it just keeps everything up on long enough just to be like, okay, turn off all my sensitive stuff. Mine's also a built-in surge protector, which is good. It's important to take care of your stuff, make sure everything flows smoothly. The high-end stuff for be able to finish your work on battery power is pretty goo, but it's fair.
Oh, it's broken. Interesting.
I definitely take it. May as well add.
Oh, Trest. What'd you say, Omega?
Oh, I just said that I may still pick up the game and add it to my life.
Yeah, no, I recommend it. It's free. And it's not the bestest, but it's good.
No, people seem to like it. And technically, that's kind of interesting because earlier today, I not only decided to order me a physical copy of The Great Gun Pan by Arthur Machen, own that physically, and it was relevant to the Fan Servant Friday bit that you'll find on Let's Talk when it comes out. But also, I realized that Asterisk Descending was physically out. It was apparently the physical release was November the 2nd.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
So Amazon didn't have any stock, but I found some vendors at the MSRP and ordered it up. So that'll be coming. I paid $40 for it plus some shipping. PS5 version. I double-checked reviews. It's kind of interesting. A lot of people are saying 6s or 7s. The most text of it seems to be that the gameplay is perfectly fine, you know, for JRPGs, and the art style is really good, but quote unquote the story and quest lines are not interesting, and I'm like, don't care. I've paid more for shit. I've paid more for less, basically.
Yeah.
Like it's a JRPG that looks good and plays good. I'll get over it. It's only $40.
It's fine.
I'm hoping I'll yell at it less than I yelled at Kina, which I played $40 for. Though admittedly, I was yelling at Kina on stream.
Mm.
It's a conundrum, you know. People watch us play games on stream, and then you know you have to focus on the game, but also focus on the audience. And we, you know, do tandem streaming. We try to converse with each other, and sometimes it does not work.
No.
But definitely has some angles. But yeah, so it's you know it takes your attention.
Like I said, I get paid this Friday, so I'll probably maybe think about picking up a Stray Ascending then.
Don't know exactly. Because like I said, it was not a Amazon Prime title.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't put any in stock. I think it's one of those, you know, not full limited, but like semi-limited runs. You know, it's also on Switch and stuff. So you gotta watch out for the stock.
Ooh, what are you? Oh, you are fresh. Okay. All right, stop with that. Stop with that. It's rude. It's rude. He is the biggest boy.
But yeah, so that's an order I locked in. Got some stuff, but I can talk about some other stuff.
Please.
Jam. So I mentioned this. I think it was actually on mic on Let's Talk, but obviously that hasn't gone out. But over this week, I did complete Guardians of the Galaxy. It seems like a solid week worth of playing game. It's 15 or 16 chapters, and yeah, as far as I can tell, it's basically all linear. Choices do matter, and it kind of seems like all your different like dialogue trees and stuff kind of come to a head at the very end.
Mm-hmm.
Like I got a lot of like callbacks to stuff that I done successfully, like right up there in the big climactic chapter. Like, you know, if you persuade people to help you, they show up and like you know, blow up a fight that would have been with like a shitload of mooks and mini bosses, and they're just like, nope, that's taken care of. Keep going.
Okay.
And you're like, yeah, cool, great. But overall, beat it. Had a very positive experience. The game is really great. Like the dialogue is just fantastic all the way down. The storytelling is really good with all the characterization. You really get to like grow and feel all the team. I talked about this last week, but it has a great job of like knowing that you, the audience, probably know who these characters are because they've been in 2 MCU movies, but also like how the MCU is doing different, you know, different sort of things with the characters than is traditional. Mm-hmm. So, like this kind of, it definitely does a really good job of like making the characters feel distinct and doing their own thing with kind of their tone and stuff. Like I don't necessarily know how to call like movie star Lord. He's kind of I guess you could say he's a little bit of a man-child. That's kind of the point in 2.
Yeah.
You know, him and his daddy issues and stuff, and you know, all that stuff. That's not really how Peter Quill is in the game. Quill's issue is more about that he's kind of like relentlessly upbeat and positive, often as a way to be non-confrontational. Mm-hmm. Like, very few dialogue options are actually you just being an asshole.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you're deliberately trying to make people mad as part of like the plot. Like, usually your dialogue options come up to like support one or the other party members, one of the other Guardians, or like try to like either, you know, get people to loosen up, to refocus, to work on stuff. Literally, the huddle mechanic is you call the team in for a huddle and you give them a speech, and if you pick the wrong speech, you just say some completely out-of-base nonsense, and the rest of the team is just like, what the fuck, Quill? That sucked. I'm going now. I'm gonna go punch guys.
Goodbye.
And they just leave. So, yeah, it's slightly different characterization. They blend a lot of stuff. that we, you know about already. They blend a lot of stuff from the comics. They blend a lot of original stuff. There's some interesting kind of comparisons to characters and involvement there. And it feels nice and deep, and it has the depth to grow the characters, and is just really good that way. Like I said, the dialogue's a lot of fun. There's a lot of really fun, plot stuff they do. They introduce some really neat characters I like a lot. Graphically, the game is, like, really, really great. Like, hair rendering's really good. There's some different costumes you can get for everybody. Both optional and then plot-related. When you go to the climax of the game, you actually all show up in cool white and gold costumes.
Oh, neat.
Like, you do the comic book thing. It's the last volume of the story arc. You do a costume switch because you're cool. That kind of stuff. All the environments are, like, really neat and spacey. I won't say why we went to this planet because it's a third act thing, but in the third act, you go to an ice planet where it rains rectangular asteroids.
Rectangular asteroids.
Yeah, no, it's, like, very visually distinct. It's really cool. And also they do this really beautiful thing with color contrast as you're in, like, these mountainous areas with these, like, deep red rock but the covering of white snow on top. Like, oh, like, so many of these environments are, like, really neat and breathtaking. There's a lot of environmental storytelling. So, it's really good. The only thing I will say is the actual fighting mechanics are not super deep. They're a little repetitive. Each of the Guardians only has 4 special moves, and you have 2 attack buttons. So you shoot or punch. You can kind of do some stuff like you can unlock a perk for a charged shot, where if you double tap the trigger, you can hold down for a big shot. I don't really know how it's better than just shooting a guy more with your fully automatic fire. It is a required perk you get to, like, defeat certain environmental obstacles that Quill's guns normally have a cooldown. If you go to the top on their bar, they'll overheat, but you can do a special heat release shot if you time it just right, like it's fucking Gears of War, and release, like, a powerful attack that kind of extends your combos. So, like, there's a little bit of depth, but really it's mostly just you get into a fight, there's a shitload of mooks. If they have a elemental weakness you can exploit or have to exploit, sometimes enemies have, like, little color-coded shields and stuff. You tab over to one of the special 4-element things you've got, because Quill's got 4 elemental shots. Ice, lightning, water, not water, wind, fire. So ice freezes guys, lightning stuns them and spreads to nearby enemies, fire does damage over time, and wind pulls guys closer to you. So, like, you got some fun interactions. You also need those for, like, environmental interactions for, like, exploring and stuff. Picking up goodies, getting crafting components, whatever. But other than that, it's just, oh, hey, here's a cluster of guys. Gamora, do your special thing. Okay, you're on cooldown. Oh, here's a guy who's really tough, but you need to stagger him. Drax, do your thing. The enemies are clustered again. Rocket, blow those guys up. Groot, this guy's a flyer. Lock him down so I can punch him. Like, it's just, you do a lot of the same things over and over again. It still can be very fun and dynamic, especially when, like, I talked about the huddle up mechanic. When you activate the huddle, the 80s music starts blaring. And everybody gets, like, 0 cooldown time, so you can just spam special attacks. So, like, it's really involved and neat, but a lot of the fights are very repetitive for an action game. Like, you shoot and you punch. You don't directly control any of the other Guardians. They mostly just punch and stab on their own. Rocket shoots, that kind of thing. There's a couple of, like, interesting moves. Like, you can, get a perk to do, like, a sliding power punch, and you can unlock special attacks to, like, take down heavy enemies when your combo bar fills, but it's not super deep, but I don't think it has to be. It's not, like, super involved or anything, but it's also not, like, super tedious, Like, I did feel that some of the later fights, especially some of the late-end boss fights, were, like, a little long and repetitive because, like, one of the last... Yeah, I think he's, like, I won't talk about the context again, spoilers, but the last, like, boss fight of the game is, I think, like, 3 or 4 health bars. And with rounds of invincibility shielding you have to shoot down in between. And it's not really that interesting because he doesn't even do anything different when you break bars and switch phases. Like, he just does the same stuff. It's just like, all right, guys, I get what you're going for. He's really strong. He's drawn out. But, like, okay. This just took me, like, 30 minutes instead of 15, It's not bad. It's just like it slows a little down as you get to the end, but there's still plenty of fun to be had there, and you get a little variety and stuff. And like I said, the soundtrack of the game is amazing. I love when you land the final hit of a fight on the in Tainted Love. But also you can get some funny shit, like, because it's completely random off the licensed soundtrack, so occasionally you will enter the huddle mode, you will pop the correct title, and Never Gonna Give You Up starts playing. Or Don't Worry, Be Happy. You know, it's a really good, solid game. I like it. It's got a new game plus that I think I'm going to check out and get some different dialogue options and find some more of the costumes, because a lot of them fun little tidbits and stuff. And there's so much environmental dialogue. Like, there's so much dialogue I accidentally skipped because, like, if you move too far up in the sequence and you'll come across a new thing and you'll see something new and they'll switch conversations, you know?
Yep.
And there's not really a good way to unfuckle that. You just have to, like, when you're exploring, sometimes you want to just, you know, pace it out because they say something interesting.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a bit of dialogue you can interact with, you know, if Quill can comment on it, usually they make sure it's in a section that you can't speedrun through, at least.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so, like, there's a little bit of replayability just because you might want to hear more dialogue from these guys. And, like, there are a lot of times when I feel almost like they don't shut up. Like, literally new dialogue is spawned when you stand around and don't move on to the next objective. They're just like Rocket will just be like, Quill, what are you doing? You get lost up there? What's the matter? Come more anytime, Peter. You know, and if you go like wrong ways, like so many times have I gone off on exploration to like find components for crafting or try and find a costume that's hidden or a collectible item, you know, so I can have more cool conversations with my friends on the team, family of choice and stuff. And then they're just like, why is he going that way now? What's going on? You know. And sometimes Quill shoots back. He's like, I'm getting a vantage point. Jeez, guys. Like, it's very humorous. So, like, there's so much dialogue. It's probably worth playing through a couple of times just to get everything.
Okay.
And I even, like, there was no tracking all of the collectibles other than probably the trophies, so I should double check. I know I didn't get all the costumes, so.
Yeah.
I kind of want to see what New Game Plus does. I will say that at the very least, I was able to give all of my Guardians their 3 purchasable abilities, their level up abilities, because every Guardian has an ultimate move, basically, that's unlocked by story progression.
Yeah.
All of which are pretty good. I kind of hate, but I understand that Groot's is the last. Groot's is his life-giving spores, which if you go down is an auto-revive.
Oh, yeah.
It's literally the last ultimate ability you get. Like, just before the final chapters. But it's still pretty important, especially considering, like I said, if you somehow fucked up your dialogue and you didn't get any friends on your side, extra friends, that final stretch is probably pretty miserable. Because I think it was like the one that, for instance, one of the characters I like talked to and convinced to help me earlier came back for and blew up was like, I think it was like 3 or 4 waves of mooks and then a 3 mini boss guys at the back end, and then they just all get blown up, and you're like, okay, thank God.
It's like, woo, dodge a bullet there.
All right, thanks, buddy. Anytime. Thumbs up. You know, outside of the licensed soundtrack, the soundtrack is, I would say, very MCU adjacent, but in like a good way. Like it's full of all the like heroic streams and brassy bits that you expect. You know, very on point, very on brand. And the game really does the gamut of the setting you can get with this kind of like sci-fi super stuff. Like I said, like some elements are almost like horror as you like explore some of these places. You do some like journey to the center of the mind shit. There's a lot of interaction between like pseudoscience and even magical stuff, and you know the fact that we all live in space and fly in our spaceship, right?
Yeah.
Drax is constantly yakking about sorcery, and Rocket's like, there's no such thing as sorcery. You know? And then there's definitely space. And like I said, there's some great characters I was not expecting directly that show up. I'm glad to see. A lot of little cameos if you know something about it. So all in all, that's my review. I do think it's a great game. It's very fun. Like I said, probably going to check out the New Game Plus myself. I recommend it. I know some people may be nervous because Square Enix's Avengers didn't come out so good, but this is by, you know, Eidos Montreal, who I think have handled the original Avengers project, and this seems to be a lot more on point. It's very well written.
Mm-hmm.
It's great. When you get to the credits, there is there's a post credits montage of Polaroids about what all the characters do afterward. Because of course there is.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, so there's lots of fun. So y'all should go check it out if you haven't. I'm sure I will be able to report on Trius and eventually. Slow boat, no Prime 2 day on this, but I'm check out like this game.
Yeah, no, well. Oh wait, no, I lied. I just realized.
What's up?
So I did not play this immediately after Let's Talk the other day. No, I actually beat Carrion.
Oh, beat Carrion.
Yeah, no, I actually got I platinumed it, so I did everything. And I'm gonna have to say, actually, it's a pretty solid game, but you kind of have to realize what you're getting into, because when you first look at Carrion, you think it's just like, oh, I'm gonna be a monster, I'm gonna be a big monster, I'm gonna terrorize, I'm gonna eat everybody, nom 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 nom, fear me. And to some degrees, it is that, but the more I played Carrion, the more I realized, no, it's just it's a puzzle game. It's a puzzle game of you trying to get the ability to escape this big facility. And you basically just evolve and grow to learn new abilities to do more things, so you can like do more puzzles. Oh, how do I want to explain this? So the game starts off, like I said, I tried playing this. You guys might have seen this a little bit. But you start off small and you start picking up abilities. Like, you get the ability to, like, grab things, move things. You get an ability to shoot a web that can trap enemies, but you can also use it to hit switches. Like, through little spaces that you normally can't fit through. You get the ability to turn invisible, which, yes, lets you turn invisible to enemies, but also lets you bypass certain laser securities, but not others. You also get the ability to, parasite, your enemies, but you can use them to take out other enemies, or you can use them to walk around unnoticed to activate, other doors, switches, and other things. And then, you get your big form, which is definitely, I would definitely say, more combat focused. But it's still the same thing of you need to use the abilities to not only do combat, but to solve puzzles. And a lot of the rooms are built around this. Like, there only usually be a few enemies. Like, they never just throw, like, hordes of enemies at you to,
I think that kind of befits what the developers have said the game is, right? Like, as a reverse horror game, right? It's still the horror game conventions. You don't get to just... You still have to deal with, like, solving puzzles, very common in horror games, and, like, interacting with limited numbers of enemies, but if you don't approach them correctly, you will get fucking murdered.
Oh, yeah, no,
but
like, the enemies will
you're
just...
the monster, and they're the, like, normal humans with guns kind of thing, right?
Yeah, and those guns are effective. They will just end you. So it's not something that... It's not a brainless...
It's not like I'm playing one of those Godzilla games.
No. It's not brainless, and actually, like I said, it's like, it never... And the thing is, it actually has a very comfortable level of difficulty, I'll say. Like, I never say I ever... Like, there's only one point I ever felt actually frustrated in the game, and it wasn't on a main thing, it was an optional thing, because the game was very, very... I guess I want to say obtuse, I guess is the best way to say it. Because one of the abilities you learn is how to turn into basically eels, like tentacles in the water, so you can get through super small spaces. But the thing is, the larger you are, the more blocky your movement is. Like, your movement's never really perfectly centered. Sometimes it'll be at the front, sometimes it'll be at the back, sometimes it'll just be some weird nodes in the middle of fucking... in your mass. It's a little awkward, but most times the movement's pretty good. So... yeah. Again, the game was completely no dialogue, not even text boxes, but they did give 3 little cutscenes to kind of explain what goes on, and then you can kind of infer some shit that has happened at the end. I won't necessarily spoil it because who knows, but it's like I enjoyed it. I'm glad to. Oh, is this the blacksmith? No, this is the alchemy lab. I should make some shit.
Alchemy.
This is the one of the fun things here. They don't give you potions. You actually have to grab random shit and be like, okay, what happens if I mix this and this? And
That's pretty fun.
Yeah, it's just like start experiment, failure. Let's see.
So I suppose if you really wanted to, look at,
See if I
or you can keep notes in real life.
Minor frostbite. Well, once you figure out a potion, it'll keep the recipe for you. But like, yeah, like see, here's one. This one is raw damage. So if I power raw damage with ice, I get an ice potion. I post, raw damage with lightning, get a lightning potion. Stuff like that. Mana, physical. Actually, what happens if I do this? Force potion, restoration. If I do that, is that a mana potion, health, poison? Nope.
It depends on the context of the game, but in this kind of this seems like one of those very in-depth, computer RPG kind of things.
Oh yeah.
That can definitely be fun to poke stuff on your own and see what. And I can see you can only do 2, so that probably limits how far you can get with certain combos. Level up your alchemy. You'll get more boxes. You can do more regions at once, which probably lets you scale up to greater versus lesser stuff like that.
Welcome.
And who doesn't love to just fill in basically the equivalent of boxes in charts?
Pinch of this, drop of that here to
Blood root
learn.
plus
I
blood
can
root.
hardly discern one of
Nothing.
you creatures from an. I really don't remember how I
1
came
plus
to be
1,
here.
2.
So long as
plus
no one
2
tells
is
me to
3.
leave, I'll carry on.
Fun
Go on then.
So,
But all right, yeah.
The grave thresh will make tender.
I've already
So
killed the
decent.
thrush. You fools. You fools. Do you not see the blades in the ring I carry? They're mine now, by the way. Oh, I gotta go in here. Actually, no, I need to find someone to sell my shit to. I can only carry 70 items, and when in a game like this, where there's loot around every fucking table, that adds up. That adds up real quick.
Indeed, it does. Yeah.
That's
I played some old school computer RPGs, and
It's a crafting.
it's always funny how games in this style often seem to arbitrarily decide your inventory limit.
Yeah.
Why did they decide 70? I don't know. Maybe because you can get a thing later that increases it to 100, but why not start at 100? Who knows?
What is this? Oh, it's just
Stuff.
stuff.
Funds. You got a purple item.
I gotta destroy things so I can fucking.
Yeah, you're literally.
But I
Man.
don't want to destroy everything at once because I need to make gold. Because here's the thing that bugs me. Here's the thing that bugs me about this. Game. You can have people teach you how to make things. I mean, to do more skills. So all your that's not what I wanted. All your skills, you can actually have someone teach you how to do skills. But the thing is, it's so fucking expensive. There's this one dude back in the starter town, I guess I'll call it, who can teach you the abilities of detect hidden. From 0 to 1, it cost me 15k. I've been playing this game for several hours. I'm at 5k. And I actually haven't bought anything. I've just been living off the land. I'm just like, God damn it, game.
Yeah. No. Sounds a lot like.
Greetings. I am Gleonor. Also known
Or
as
actually, what it reminds me
all
of,
us
and I
in
think
the
this would,
West
yeah, this would have been
we
about.
are the
It reminds me of
blazing
skill trainers in
summer
Skyrim,
of the
right?
brooding
Yeah.
Where
As
for your now, those guys at least for their basic bitch baby levels are fucking nothing. But the moment you want to actually get good at a skill, they're like, That'll cost you like 1k gold per 5 skill levels. Teach you here. Well, okay. Talk to you in a little bit. Bye.
His gaze is not on one ballot.
I'm gonna go punch more crabs and see if I drop crab gold. Why do crabs have gold? Nobody
For
knows.
you, tales are naught but a reminder of your inevitable decline. But for the Fae, our tales are... Here we celebrate the very heart of our every
I was like, we're ancient and cool. We like stories.
Goes on from creation deep
Also,
into
so
the
is my
hidden
goatee
air.
and my sight.
Until then, we celebrate the small. Sing your song.
But okay. One for Karen.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about. But I can also talk. Suspicious. Here's a suspicious book.
Book.
Closure with the Fallen. Sorry, love that. But yeah, so basically while my lights were out, except for the little emergency storm light I have,
You are granted
came an impromptu
the feet of
bedside.
Sir Sacral. Alas, there is no time
I did a lot of reading.
There has been
I
one
didn't have anything else to
similar
do.
the
I
plight
read
of
the
Sacral
entirety of
Nightmare.
Night Parade of 100 Deep,
Another erratic chain of events.
which is one of the
The
L5R
great
novels.
Sir Ferrara has been
I
sent
did
to
see somebody
face
even
his
talk
new
about
challenge.
picking up the 4 that are out now.
But he will need
The
your
novella
assistance.
compilation comes out later this month
Sir
as well.
Ferrara
Pick that up for
tracks
the
villain
novella
Bloody
and also to
Bones
keep
to
my bookshelf
this
at
is Ferrara's most
good
selfless
old
act,
symmetry.
to give up his own glory for the
But,
good
yeah, I read
in
it,
every telling. Sir Ferrara
so,
falls at the
shout out
hands of
to,
Bloody Bones. Sacral revives the
the
fallen
author, Mary
hero
Brennan.
and brings him back to the lights of this summer life. Without excellent.
Sorry, I had to physically look around and double check my shelf because I can see all the books from here. She was also the author of the Dragon Clan novella, The Eternal Knot. The Night Parade also taking place mostly in Turf. It kind of makes sense. Also, she's got a fun little author's bio. Apparently, her day job used to be as a anthropologist, folklorist. Turned that into authorship, and I'm like, this track's correct.
Yes.
Guys, guess what? At the end of the novel called The Night Parade of 100 Demons, there's a glossary of yokai.
Yeah. That's. Oh, I'm
It's
gonna.
only 66 long.
Oh, that's not 100.
It's not actually literally 100.
I was about to say.
But that's because all 100 don't actually show up. But it is a description of all the yokai who are name checked.
Oh, that's lovely. I gotta get this book now.
Yeah, like they're just short little lines. They're simplified, but they're very fun. She deliberately calls out she got a lot of help from the guy who runs yokai.com. Both not only from the website, but also through like directly contacting him for sources. So that's pretty cool. I've heard some people kind of talk a little middling about the book. And I don't necessarily understand why some people seem a little lukewarm. Like, I don't think like the dialogue and the plot isn't as like twisty and catchy as like the Daidoji Shin mysteries, but that's because it's not.
It's not.
I mean, it's a supernatural mystery, but it's not like it's not framed like a mystery, right?
Well, also, I think all that twisting and turning is because it's a fucking Daidoji Shin fucking novel.
Right? Yeah. It's written like samurai pulp novels.
Yeah.
Those books are. Whereas the Night Parade is written more like classic folklore ghost detectives kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Like trying to figure out what the premise of the story is. One of our characters is a dragon shugenja from the Higasha family. He's called up to return to go to a village by the governor of a nearby city because they've been attacked by horrible monsters at the night of the full moon twice now, and they need help or they're all gonna die. This is a big deal because there's a lot of talk about like the major Dragon Clan plot threads that are in the RPG current edition, the current lore.
Mm-hmm.
So like they have a dwindling population problem, they have problems with like economics and feeding themselves. So this town is on a very productive mine for not only red dye, which goes into lacquerware, which is very valuable, but also for alchemical reagents, which is very important part of.
Mm-hmm.
Also, he has a deep, dark secret that is revealed immediately because they do an actually interesting thing. There are two main characters. One is Isao Ryutora, and the other is Asako Seken. He is a phoenix, so he's kind of come to this Dragon Clan village to get some answers about some spiritual stuff of his own. The book perfectly alternates their POV. It's not first person, but their POV each chapter.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, you finish a chapter, you flip to the other main character. But they both have kind of like their deep, dark secrets that is revealed immediately in their chapter, so it's not really a secret, right? It's just part of the premise of their character drama. Isao Ryutora was adopted by a vassal family of the Higasha as a baby. Now, that's not uncommon for Shugenja to get adopted by samurai families when they show up in the peasant class, but they didn't know he was a Shugenja when he was adopted, and he was adopted out of this town. So, like, he is a child of this village who has shown up now as, you know, a Shugenja, as a wizard priest, basically, to solve their problems, and doesn't know what his relationship to anybody is. And Asuko Seken's problem is that he is being haunted by an Inugami.
Really?
He's being haunted by a ghost spirit, which is giving him classic Japanese-ass sleep paralysis, by the way. like he describes, like, seeing the ghost dog sitting on his chest and feeling he's bound up in iron and stuff. You know? So, very classic telling of the types of stories. There's a lot of deep cuts in the yokai lore. Like, you see all the common things, but also the, you know, some really weird shit. Horse heads that attack you and give you fevers and stuff. And basically, the whole rest of the novel is they trundle around this village trying to heal spiritual problems, because some people have, you know, bad symptoms left over from the yokai attacks. Trying to figure out, like, what is causing the attacks and how to solve them, and then actually, like, applying this stuff once they figure out that it's the so-called night parade. Which is obviously given away by the title of the book, but is kind of the, like, you know, Act 2 revelation, like, oh shit, the night parade's not real, is it? Because, like, all these yokai exist, but, like, the actual yokai parade, that's, like, a literary trope. Guess not.
Surprise.
I personally like, this is something I liked about the Dragon novella as well, the Eternal Knot that Mary Brennan wrote, but I also like about this one, this is something that the old version of the L5 lore didn't do. They had a serious problem where fucking everything bad was tied to Jigoku and the Taint and the realms of corruption and Fuleng and stuff.
Yeah.
I've talked about this before. Everything was about the Taint with a capital T, and I'm like, that's dumb, because that makes everything your shitty Chaos knockoff from Warhammer. The new lore is not afraid to treat, like, yokai as, like, a separate thing. And explicitly, a lot of these creatures come from the realm of animals or the realm of illusion that are supposed to exist alongside the material world. They are not directly part of, like, the underworld, the realms of punishment and stuff. They just kind of exist, and while you don't exactly, you know, jump out and see them every day quite, it is still very possible for you to have an encounter or two with some yokai, which I personally just love because I've talked about this. I love this, like, old school spirit detective shit. And there's a lot of fun stuff. Damn, to a message in a private channel. So yeah, the book is really good. It's a little bit of a slow build. I do think some of the people I heard talk about the book are a little, I don't want to speak too ill of them, but I think they are slightly butthurt. That's very rare. That our two characters are both male and obviously very, very much the secret gay. Well, not really the secret gay. Like, they don't even like, at several times they are propositioned by women, but it's like, and they're like, nah, not into that. But, like, they're samurai, so, you know, it's drama.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just roll out and, like, mac on another samurai. That's not how it's done. That's incredibly gauche. What are you, some kind of scorpion harlot? Wearing her kimono the wrong way around?
Excuse you.
That's a fandom joke. A lot of people joke about because it was a very classic trend, especially in the old art, which originated in the 90s and was not very progressive. That scorpions were often drawn in. The joke is about slutty scorpions because they would often have, like, very short hems on their kimonos. They would be tied the wrong way. Lots of, you know, bending down to show shoulders and cleavage, which is not how you wear a fucking kimono. But, you know, when you're doing a card game in the 90s into the early 2000s, it's part of the art. And scorpions do have a reputation for being slightly scandalous and provocative because they're, you know, manipulative.
I know.
It's a funny thing. But, like, there's a little bit of an undercurrent because the current edition being made in the late 2010s, you know, still being produced, having a lot more women and people of color involved in the writing staff and the general construction for who they pick on this, and also being generally much better researched than the original version of the lore was, has made no bones about the fact that not only do, like, same-sex relationships occur, but some characters are, like, asexual, non-binary, etc., and a heavy emphasis on the fact that, you know, marriages are completely, like, legal affairs, so you can arrange same-sex marriages and have adoptions to fill and the need for heirs without it being a problem, which some people are like, meh, your politics, meh.
Report to Warden's Bridge.
And I'm like, it literally doesn't matter. I actually, because of some stories I've read, in particular, I'm very fond of the Tales of the Otori series by Leon Hearn. Adoption is actually supposed to be a huge deal in samurai dramas.
Oh yeah.
Like, it's a very big thing historically, like, adopting people into your family and what order they're in. So, like, I don't think it's a real concern for me. Like, I don't think it takes anything away from the arranged marriage thing. It's signing contracts. Nobody, that is actually, like I talked about, like, you don't publicly mac on another samurai, but, like, it is established that, like, affairs are not necessarily infrequent because people are often married for political convenience and don't necessarily have to have any positive relationships, and while children are often encouraged, they are not required. So, like, there's a lot of, like, you know, political stuff going on, and I mean, it's not like, I think the founding, the Great Ten Kami, I think, are very well gender balanced. It's not like an even 50-50 split, but, you know.
Well, actually, in some tellings, well,
I meant in L5R, right?
Yeah. That's my bad.
Yeah, like, obviously, Amaterasu is still venerated in the L5R setting as the primo deity, and Lord Moon is a schlub. But like, while, you know, one of her sons, Hante, is, you know, the imperial family, the Crane and Unicorn clans were founded by women, and I mean, the Phoenix aren't even run by their family descended from their capital K. It's a whole thing. But yeah, like, I like the book for the world building. I do not think it is quite as, like, gripping and fun to read as, like, Daidoji Shin, but we just talked about that. Like I said, those are written like, you know, like classic pulp mysteries, just with a samurai touch. You know, he's, you know, talking about evidence. He's chatting to femme fatales. He's, you know, sneaking into places. There's, you know, sword fights and stuff. This is much more, like I said, slow build ghost detective stuff. You know, one of our characters is a courtier scholar raised by the Asako, who are a family of mostly librarians. He literally explains, oh yeah, I'm like the youngest of like 4 sisters, and all of my family members have important postings, so I literally just kick back and read old stories. So his purpose in the story is to be a huge nerd who knows about yokai and stuff. And honestly, the other character is a Shugenja, but the most, like, action-packed stuff he does is, like, he occasionally does some Earth invocations to do anti-ghost stuff. They don't call it Jade Strike, but he casts Jade Strike at least once. That is your low-level primo anti-spookum spell.
I was gonna say, I'm trying to think of a good term for this. I don't want to say it's Lovecraftian because it's not Lovecraftian, but it's literally the Haunted Village, and two guys have, like, come into it to solve the fucking mystery.
Yeah, it's a very classic. I mean, I know the book's not necessarily presented as horror, but definitely a supernatural, like, thriller or mystery trope of, like, you go to a remote place. It's not quite a closed circle because a big deal is made about the fact that the dragon character, he has the authority. He's literally the only Dragon Clan samurai there. Dragon Clan are so short on hands that a lone Shugenja is sent with just 2 Ashigaru. He doesn't even have a Yojimbo. Which is very, very unusual in the setting for most people who are familiar with the lore. So, like, that's how short-handed they are. They sent 1 wizard priest and 2 Ashigaru to guard him to this village, and he could evacuate, but he doesn't want to because that would make him look bad, because the mine is very valuable and his lordship would not like him to do that. So it's not a complete closed circle, but there's a lot of back and forth. There is some very specific, like, to both L5R lore and to
Girl,
general.
you got a lot of skin showing.
Clearly she dodges. Does she have 2 swords? She smoke bomb. She's fine. She doesn't need armor.
How did this happen?
But yeah, like, there's a lot of relationship. Like, you know, at first they wonder, oh hey, is this yokai attack happening because there was an earthquake that damaged our shrine to the mountain kami we live on? They have to, like, you know, temporarily relocate the mountain, the earth kami, and move him around, and, like, bring out the shintai and the portable shrine and everything, and it's really cool. There's a lot of, like, deeper cuts about, like, spiritual stuff and the way things are interacting in spirit realm, which is really cool to me. So I would recommend it. You know, I think it's on point. It does not go whole hog because they make it a big deal about how the characters usually refer to one another or themselves by their first names, though occasionally they go around. But, like, it is also features yet another vassal family character who he does sometimes use his full name with like the Isao no Agasha Ryotaro, but like sometimes he's just referred to by his vassal family name, which, like I said, that's the thing I've noticed a couple of authors in these novels doing. That's something that very preeminently Josh Reynolds does in Poison River and Death's Kiss, right? Is he uses the lore to diversify the surnames a little.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you have a... For the like the card game and the RPG and stuff, it makes sense to consolidate names, but for like fiction telling, it's a lot easier to distinguish characters if they have more distinct name convention.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm kind of glad by this. I'm interested to see obviously I'd be interested to see in what the Crane Clan novella they're going to include in the collection the anthology is going to be, because that's going to be by seems right. List of book. Remember when Amazon was just books, kids? Yeah, it'll be by Katrina Ostrander, who was she is the story lead at Fantasy Flight Games still, I think, and was the narrative director specifically for L5R when it first came out. So she's responsible for a lot of the early setup stuff and early direction of the fluff, both for the card game, the living card game, now complete, and then the RPG edition. So, like, it'll be interesting to see her actually write more than some of the small snippets of intro fiction and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And get that a little bit more of a focus on the Crane Clan. Like, they're not unheard of, but they have been in kind of a weird place, I think, with some of the fiction, because, like, the Daidoji Shin is a Crane Clan guy, but he is noted as being very unusual for both a Daidoji and sometimes even for the Crane. Because the Daidoji family, don't know, son of the Crane, are they're a family known for their stoic, hard-assed warriors, and they're finagling in business matters. Daidoji Shin is a dabbler and a rake.
A dandy, I think is a good word.
Yes, he's a dandy. He's not quite rich idiot with no day job levels. Like, he's not a full Batman, but like we're getting close. Like he is exiled to a posting by his grandfather to like where it seems like basically he can't fuck it up because it runs itself. So yeah, it's a different take. So I'll be interested to see what happens. And the next full novel that's going to come out, I believe, early next year is actually from one of the Imperial families. It's about a Mia who are they're connected to the Imperial cartographers. So that'll be pretty interesting to see if it's more of like a travelogue style story.
Oh, what? I can buy backpacks? What?
Sick. Buy backpacks. Wear all the backpacks. We're a real RPG now, boys.
Like, it's like, God, the backpack is expensive.
Of course it's expensive.
Jesus.
Of course it's expensive.
Goodbye.
I wonder if I can just
Video game economics are really fucked up in a completely different way than tabletop RPG economics. And sometimes it's funny. But yeah, so I don't know if I will right away, but I think that definitely, that tone, by the way, definitely filled me with a little bit of juice to go back to maybe cracking L5R campaign. Because I've talked about that before. That is very much in the travelogue Spirit Detectives kind of scenario. Though, obviously, just because I like a lot of the different rules, you would probably be called on to occasionally do some stuff like, I don't know, duel dudes, punch bandits, solve crimes. Not necessarily ghost crimes, but possibly solve real crimes with the help of ghosts. Ghost evidence isn't admissible in court, but, you know, that just means you got to figure out the evidence yourself. Can you equip the backpack, or is it automatic?
This is automatic, I think.
Just gives you more slots.
Yeah, now I'm up to 80 from 70.
Slots on slots on slots. I figured.
I just wonder if this is...
Because 70 is kind of a weird number.
I was hoping it would just be, like, in my inventory, though, somewhere.
That would be funny.
But yeah, no.
No, you got a permanent. But yeah, so chalk that up for another recommender. I'm personally probably not going to pick up Curse of Honor, the Crab Clan novel. One, I have heard that the tone of the writer makes it very clear that, like, he basically had an editor just go through and change all the characters' names and all the place names and stuff to be more Japanesey.
Oh,
like,
no.
it's just, it's written like a pretty bog standard, like, horror mystery novel, and then it just, like, vaguely has some of the character name checks for things. Whereas, like I said, I've talked about this. The Daidoji Shin mysteries are like the editor, Josh Reynolds himself, is way more involved in the lore than some of that other stuff. And obviously, like I said, Barry Brennan has written one of the novellas already, which was directly under Fantasy Flight's branch, and then like also worked on some other fluff and stuff for the RPG. So I will see as we see with other stuff. But I've also been doing some stuff in addition to tackling some writing projects and some prep work on some future RPG stuff, which I'm sure we can have a long conversation about because we had several long conversations about earlier in the week.
My bad.
No, it's okay. Like I said, it's just kind of funny where like you asked me where my time went. I'm like, well, we did get bogged down, not really bogged down, but we got very involved in a conversation. I was already working on a lot of that stuff, but just because you happened to be there, also working on it at the same time, that really got me into like going back and forth and developing some of those ideas. So we can talk about that in a second. But also, I do have some other things. But I did put one of those things. The thumbnail. So I, if Lucky has nothing further to say other than to yell about spiders right now.
I really don't.
Spiders. But I was on the Netflix browsing. Originally, I was actually looking, like I said, to catch up on the Karate Kid movies, but apparently Netflix has rotated those out again. Not sure who got the license there. Netflix has Cobra Kai now. But apparently the classic 3 Karate Kids are gone from Netflix, at least for the moment. But somehow they still have the remake with Jackie Chan, and also the next Karate Kid. And I'm like, Netflix, what the fuck? You're drunk. Go home. But as Netflix often does, they caught me with the trailer for something.
Oh.
And I watched it because it was pretty short. I will link Lucky to the intro so he can check it up his. But this show is Inside Job. It is an animated. It is an adult animation workplace comedy. Of course it is.
Oh, it's this one
on Netflix. Yeah. This is spearheaded by a woman called Shion. It says it right there in the intro. It says it all the time. I'm just bad with this. She was a writer for Gravity Falls, and the creator of Gravity Falls is an executive producer on the show. So if you are familiar with that series, and it does kind of have some similar themes, because what Inside Job is about is, like I said, it's a workplace comedy where the workplace is the shadow government, and all conspiracies are true, except Flat Earth. It's not true. The Earth is not flat. It is hollow. It doesn't mean that Flat Earthers don't show up, but it's very funny. But yeah, they just hooked me with a random trailer that kind of showed the start of this, where our main character, Reagan Rand, is talking to her old man dad, who looks like he's a hobo rambling about the shadow government, but he's not really, because he's a retired shadow government guy. By the way, her drunk semi-deadbeat dad is played by Christian Slater, doing a great job selling being a crotchety old man. But he used to work for the shadow government until he got forced out, and his daughter is, like, coming up in the organization. And it's basically just dealing with her struggles because she wants to be promoted to basically the CEO of Cognito Inc. Get it, guys? Incognito. And dealing with her own wacky, weird problems. The primary thing, the conflict in the first episode, is that her boss, JR, who is your very typical corporate suit kind of character, hires a literal who rando who has no idea what the shadow government is to be like a VP, and be kind of a co-team lead with Reagan. His name is Brett. He's like a Harvard, kid who just has a firm handshake. He's not an asshole though. He's actually one of the sweetest and nicest characters. He just has no idea what the fuck he's doing. So there's a lot of really interesting character building there, and just. But like I said, I watched the trailer. It was like 30 seconds, and I'm like, this looks hilarious. And it's got that quality of animation that, they really get out there with all the weird, gribbly shit. Like, they're not afraid of, some of the funny things with the characters. One of the characters is a human-dolphin hybrid. He used to be a normal man. He underwent an experimental procedure to become part dolphin. He used to be in the U.S. military. And another character is a psychic fungi from the Hollow Earth. And, yeah, it's just full of the kind of, like, modern, weird humor you'd expect from these kinds of shows. I know some people say they compare it to, like, Rick and Morty. I think those shows are coming from a similar place on the part of the people making them, but they're not that similar, right? Like Inside Job is one much more directly poking fun at a lot of like the random conspiracy mythos, but also it like I think it examines kind of like the weird fucked up world we live in nowadays with like how people can believe some stuff that seems so like ludicrous and like, you know, what does that actually mean for us? And like, you know, how do you like build relationships and stuff and work on your problems and stuff? And it's got a lot of, I would say, like genuinely like honest like commentary and like character building moments and stuff. And it, you know, it can be heartwarming, but also it can be really hilarious and funny. And I like I said, like a lot of the acting and the dialogue. So I just sucked it in. It's like 10 episodes. I watch it. And I'm like, all right, that was cool. And like I said, I was really sucked in by the trailer, and then which is like the first skit from before the intro, and then like this intro is so like weird, and I'm like, oh man, this looks really good. And like I said, it's normal like 20-minute episodes, and you just power through it pretty. And it's cool.
It's cute.
I think I'd also seen some characters. I'd seen some like screenshots of some of the characters floating around the internet and realized, you know, put 2 and 2 together and stuff. It's fun. Check it out, people. And I don't know. Currently, you're in a loading screen. Story time. Tapped away for a second. But I don't know, Lucky, if you've got the free brain space right now. But I know you did say you wanted to talk about some anime stuff.
I probably do not have the free brain space right now, because I do want to talk about it, but I'll probably be going a lot.
Yeah, fair enough.
Like I said, I actually like have to. This is what I do. I do believe, honestly, I just have to sit down and write down my thoughts, because if I can look at something, even glance at it, I can keep my thoughts.
You can refresh your train of thought. I understand, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's see. So, big thing about Follow Up on Guardian. We talked about King of Zamala Re-Reckoning, which came up. Lucky also did some other stuff. You talk about Carrion. Haven't really had anything else really popping up.
Who be looking at me? Don't look at me. I'm gonna steal shit. It's going down.
Oh,
something I super appreciate about this game. This game will tell me the percentage of chance I'll get caught stealing something.
What?
No looking.
Though actually, they did remind me. Speaking of both anime and Netflix, it does seem like Netflix is going a little more ham on anime. I believe they're actually going to do like a little like panel or something like in December.
Yeah, something.
Like to talk about some of the titles they're getting. Like they're actually talking with like the both the like localization industry and also the actual anime industry and stuff. And a little bit it seems to be to hype up for the JoJo release, you know.
You, what I wouldn't give
but
to be like you, to leave this place.
It does seem like they're at least, you know, realizing that, you know, kind of position they're in and working on stuff.
Days later. Now he avoids me, avoids everyone. Something happened at the. Thank you. I will give you whatever I have. Just bring me news of my mother and father. I need to know what happened there.
So, I think then the other big thing we talk about for a little bit and kill some time. Well, not kill time, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Fluff out the microphones is Star Wars stuff, because we are taking a break.
Yes.
We should be on schedule. I don't know if I need to like Dallas or not. Because he said to check with him closer to Sunday to be sure. But I think he's free, and if he's not free, take a week off fully. Maybe we'll do something else fun. There is that new Jackbox game I picked up. Play new Jack. I won't schedule anything for sure, but you know, we never know what'll happen at rando time.
Yeah.
But we're planning on going back to the Sprawl, and probably right away, because like I said, basically, I don't know if I said this to you guys, but like literally after we wrapped up the recording, which I don't think is posted yet. Yeah, we'll try. Just scooch it. Sorry, ever since I did that cookie cleaning, most of my websites are remembered by Chrome now, but not all of them are remembered in the same order, so I keep accidentally going to the Star Wars RPG wiki rather than my YouTube channel Studio. Thanks, guys. Yeah, no, the last one was Bloody Stream, so we haven't...
I have to get that.
What do we call the last one? Final Countdown?
I believe
I think so.
Yeah.
That's very funny, by the way. That is the song that Guardians of the Galaxy uses for its final boss fight. And yes, Final Countdown is in the game. Cool. I'll probably have to take some of the titles and work them. But I like immediately after that episode, because we talked about do we want to just take a break anyway and switch to the Sprawl, because, and I'm glad for it because you guys decided to do the very, very involved version of this plan, BT dubs.
Yeah.
You know, ain't no mountain high enough, I guess, guys. Too bad we already did the video. That title, I'd say. But I like immediately tabbed over back to my Sprawl notes, and oh, they're very thorough. Like, I should probably will spend tomorrow afternoon like brushing myself up back on my mechanic specifics, making sure all that's taken care of. But like, other than that, like the plot is, I must have been on a tear immediately because my plot line is like fully sketched out and like has the like world building questions and shit, both things for you guys to research and then for me to like pivot and ask you, hey, what do you think's up with this? Kind of in that collective story building way. So like, I was quite well prepared for
leadership, and I'm more than happy to give it to them. Let me put it this way. It is for the best.
So
he's a stubborn and superstitious fool.
we will probably be going back to the Sprawl. I'm gonna guesstimate, knowing us, especially because we're gonna have to shake out the cobwebs, right? We'll probably do like what happened with our first Sprawl adventure. It'll probably be broken into 2 recording sessions. One session will be the legwork phase, and then the other session will actually be the job and back half phase. Just because we're talky and I'm the GM, and you guys know how much I love to relentlessly world build.
Yeah, world builds loudly.
Yeah. That quote of mine that will never go away, even though it's really super old, I think.
I mean, we have our own sayings now. I think that we can just be like, yeah, no, that's us now.
But if you guys ever needed to wonder about world building loudly, that is literally session 0 of the Sprawl AP. You can find it on our channel. Search the Sprawl, where literally me as the GM and then the rest of the players, which is Lucky Marth, Axe, and Dallas, we just all jam on like what we want the setting to be, what kind of cyberpunk we want to do, and then ultimately character building in proper session fashion. So yeah,
it was actually really good.
Yeah, and I've still got all the notes and stuff. I think I will have to dig up my map, make sure I've got all my places right and stuff, but I think everything's fine. Like I said, my notes document is pretty thorough, and I definitely immediately like cleaned it up and went on to my plan for the second job. So I have another job planned. We can take another insert, and we're taking that insert because, like I said, the Star Wars point is kind of reaching an area where there's a decent amount of work on like what should be done next. And literally the way I pitched this was I'm glad I pre-wrote this, but I knew I would need a prompt because we cut off basically last week's session in the middle of a boss fight.
Yes.
And I knew we would need a touchstone on that because even though that fight did take like finishing that one fight took like an hour and a half, 2 hours, all things told. I think it was like an hour and a half, and then it was like 30 minutes on the actual wrap-up to the party, which went by very fast because two of our PCs were kind of beat up and decided to go home. They hitched a ride in a Sky ambulance and went home.
Yeah, it left me injured.
Yeah, you'll be fine. You got done.
Yeah, I'll be fine.
Whoever was in a lot worse of a shape, considering I think before the start she had only a couple of wounds left before threshold and had a very, very nasty permanent. We've discussed this before.
I don't know. I'm just more bitter at Lotha's. I'm bitter like, oh, family the Jedi, but constantly just leaves me to go do other things. Like, there's several times Lotha, like, I've been injured, and Lotha is just like, no, we're gonna go do on the next thing. I'm just like, I'm gonna go heal this person over here. Oh no, this person's injured. Bye. I'm just like,
It's got some, triage priority.
Yeah, I know, but we've already called
Also, I mean, I don't think it's obviously, yes, Loth quote unquote knows you were injured because he may or may not have been listening, or he may or may not have been making grilled cheese. Who knows? To know that you were hurt. But you don't usually say, and I don't know if this is more of like an Arma or a Lucky thing. You don't usually observe, oh yeah, I'm still down like 10 wounds after that.
Yeah, no, that's definitely an Arma thing.
Yeah. So
they said. It is not good.
Definitely, I feel like Boots' method of triage is more like, I have been cued in, you know, visually and verbally. You are injured. I will fix you.
They said you have no food.
And
so I brought water.
Did you even have any like? I mean, I guess you'd have some bruising and stuff, but you were literally in a punch fight, so.
Yeah, no, I had like one crit and.
You have no music.
I don't even think it was that serious.
It wasn't serious, Chris, but no.
Yeah. So. But and as Loth would say, to quote Loth about Loth, I am not a smart man.
No.
So sometimes he doesn't pick up. You know, maybe you can castigate him in the nebulous downtime later. He was also super hurt and had to juice himself up, though. He was probably at some point more injured than you ended up being.
Oh yeah.
After your solo boss fight, and he had help. I mean, I hit Lucky at least once. I know you parried one hit. I think there was another one where you were like, I'll take like at least a couple of wounds.
Yeah, I think there was one hit where I was just like, no, I need to, like, because I was using a lot of strain in that fight.
Yeah.
So a couple times I was like, nope.
It the usual, both characters were fighting unarmed and had unarmed parry. Well, basically unarmed, you know what I mean? They had, and you had unarmed parry, so it became a very typical thing for high-level Force users. You guys both were. You were both FR5, for instance. To, like, literally you play rocket tag back and forth to see who can parry most of the damage away, and then, like, actually, like, break through. And a lot of the breaking through happened once you get those strain ups, and it's like, okay, do I care if you whittle a little bit of HP away, or just doing too much stuff? Well, I mean, that's a funny character interaction I was talking about. Also, Boots' desire to keep coup de grace people. Which, and it is a known factor. Loth is a salty boy. But it's interesting how, like, Axe was thinking about it. He was like, man, probably should have done more for that guy I incapacitated and, you know, nicked his artery there. Probably not appropriate to leave a relatively, compared to the other two guys you guys fought, the least asshole-ish of the three guys bleeding out on the floor kind of a thing. When canonically one guy got captured and you did execute him later because he was, you know, bad news bears. You didn't like him. And then the other guy, the space vampire, mysteriously vanished because you didn't do enough damage with that last hit to actually crit kill him. Thing.
I stole his armbands though. That's all important.
Yeah, you got to. I let you rifle through his pockets, and then he vanished mysteriously when you turned your back. Come back at a later date. But that's kind of an interesting flip. How, like, Axe kind of in and out of character is kind of concerned about, like, should I have done more to not make that guy die? And Boots is like, fuck him, I kill that guy. Actually, considering that Camo is the hardened Special Forces operator and Boots is the medic. Now, admittedly, Boots is a clone medic, so I mean, I don't really know if they taught him compassion for the enemy or anything.
I think I had to literally yell at him as a character.
Yeah. Well, because he was thinking about just plugging the asshole that Webu fought. Rather than healing, you know, like, oh no, I was too late to save him, and you were like, don't do that. That would not be something that in character we would let slide. And he was like, all right, it's easy with droids. They're just machines.
The machines.
But yeah, like that whole thing only took 2 hours. I'm glad we got to the climax. So there's some very interesting things. You actually outlined your, you outlined your speech. Pretty fun. And then I got to make a counter speech. How dare. I got to introduce a character that I have known existed and have had in my head for a long time, but has never yet been the right time to actually introduce you to the big boss. But we got to put some names and some faces to the enemy. Got to kind of lore dump a little to the audience and the other players about, you know, your back and forth relationship there. And that kind of, I think, built into the next section, which was we spent a decent amount of time prepping for the next bit, which is basically the climax of this arc is you know, you guys are going to the other continent where we've known all along the separatist bases, talked about how you guys, you know, needed more and more triangulation to kind of figure it out there. And, you know, finally it was like, all right, it's time. I think we you know, we've done enough building on there. In character, you know, Arma talked about how she's ready to bring the fight to the enemy. So it's like, all right, so that's going to be our next big thing. The next series of events will be your long-term coordinated defensive to, like, go to the heart of enemy territory and attack and take out their main base.
Yes.
It will not be easy. Your enemy has made very specific comments about how they're planning on not making it easy this time.
Yep.
And so on and so forth. And specifically, the way this works in my mind, and I think I've talked about the structure before to remind everybody, is the idea is it's going to be kind of like you'd expect from, you know, a lot of, like, tactical games like this, where there's going to be, like, different nodes and different paths towards the base, and you guys are going to take out the nodes and then move further and further, but you can't, like, go all the way to the base until you've dealt with all the lead-up stuff, right?
Yeah.
And obviously some elements you can attack in different orders, and some of those may have some interesting relationships. Man, kind of threw me for a curveball with how we decided to do it.
Well, see, this was the thing. If, like, you probably remember, I was very kind of reluctant to bring it up, but I was like, the more I thought, I was like, no, this is what I want to do. Because, so, what the original plan was, is Omega basically had three targets for us.
Yeah. I literally called my notes document this triangle strategy.
Mm-hmm.
Because I wrote up the 3 targets, and I wrote up a rough description of the second.
And he basically described what it is. So we had 3 options. One was a supply base by the sea. Another was the dam a dam that provided a lot of power to the area. And the third was an air base. And he's explaining this to me and all that stuff, and explaining how each of them have what's the word I want to say? Not like symmetry or complement. They all complement each other, I guess, is the way.
Yeah, like they literally form a triangle, so advantages flow from one point to the other 2 points.
Yes. So
taking out one would, you know, break down 2 sides of the triangle, but would still leave, you know, the other side going the other way.
And those and, you know, but they would, like, as we attack them, they would gain advantages from the other 2. So basically, the order that we take them out, you know, determines, like, what the difficulties or what advantages or disadvantages we will have. And me, who is looking at this, goes, we could take out one at a time, but, you know, that's very, what's the word I want to say? Methodical? Paced? And usually when you want to make your, like, the way I consider it, when you want to make your opening move in an offensive, you want to do something big and then take the momentum so you can keep the momentum. Like, we made a comparison to D-Day, which I think is a bit apt, because one of the reasons why D-Day was so, well, it wasn't necessarily, like, wildly successful, but it was the thing, it was just, we hit that beach so hard and threw so much forces into it and rode the momentum all the way through fucking Europe of just our landing. We just kept feeding into it. It's like, it was literally like a, how did D-Day work? It was just basically like, we almost went,
well, so we, basically by that point in the war,
Yeah.
the Allies had lost the European mainland, so
Yeah.
this was, okay, well, we need to take back the European mainland. We know, you know, the Russians are pressing on the other side. What do we do? Well, you know, France is just across the channel from England. Why don't we just launch the single largest, you know, beachhead invasion in history, and we'll just pick some beaches, land a shitload of dudes on it, and just tell them to keep going until they hit Berlin.
Yeah.
Like, that's not literally how it worked, but it was like, okay, we need to build an opening point so we can get enough force buildup to actually finish this off.
Yeah.
And that's what they did. You know, they started with liberating and moving forward.
Yeah, but they basically had momentum on their side, because guess what? There was a lot of fucking dudes, and while the Axis, you know, had a lot of runners, they just could not keep up with just the amount of fucking
No, usually you can't keep up with being sandboxed from both sides and also having your infrastructure constantly blown up.
Yeah. So my thought was there is like, yeah, no, if we, like, I don't know, like I said, I don't know necessarily your plan, but the longer that we take in doing all these things, you know, the longer the time they have to prepare, come up with counter strategies, and, you know, potentially punch back. So my thought was, is instead of hitting 1, we hit 2. We can quickly establish a presence on here, completely steal all the momentum, reduce their ability to respond, and then start trying to ride the momentum from there. The only problem with this is we literally have to split our forces.
Yeah, which is why this was not obviously a suggested strategy, because splitting the party, I mean, splitting the party is usually rough for the party members because, you know, you have to consider, like, your strengths and weaknesses and your party comp and stuff. But also, just in general, I don't like to split the party because that's usually splits the screen time, and it's funny how, you know, when you take, like, role-playing and improv theater into account, normally what in the characters' lives in fiction makes something go twice as fast because you accomplish twice as much, it usually takes at least double the time, if not way more, for you to accomplish it out of game, you know.
But I think we had a nice balance on that. It took a little bit of talking back and forth, but ultimately decided that Arama, would basically take a specified number of dudes.
Yeah, a bulk of your force. Like I said, I worked on this as you guys were, as we were having our back and forth. I think I talked about this. I basically envisioned once you guys locked in, because that was an important thing on the actual session, was like, we not only discussed the point and also like where the split would go, but also like having to actually like lock in which solutions you guys were gonna do. Because one of the options, I don't think you actually listed did you list the 3? I don't think you did. So I can go over it really quick.
Yeah,
it's especially if you think of it as a triangle. Basically, there is an enemy supply base, which is in a cove on the ocean. So this is a, you know, entrenched supply base where they store extra supplies and bodies deep in some sea caves. You guys know that location because it's been linked to where a lot of enemy supplies for offensives they carried out on your turf come from. An important thing. Kind of figured that would be somewhere in your first strike capability, but you know. Number 2 is they've dammed off a river valley and built a huge hydroelectric dam, which not only provides a physical obstacle for you because they can just open the floodgates in Pulp Villain fashion and flood the lowlands, which will really fuck up any offensive you do, but also it's a hydroelectric dam, so it's supplying extra power for like shield sensors, guns, and stuff to the other 2 bases. And the third is somewhere in the jungle, way behind the front line of those 2 things, they have a hidden air base they've armed with, you know, cutting-edge interceptors, which, if the other 2 bases are in trouble, are supposed to, you know, fly out and come intercept you and cause problems. And because it's camouflaged and you guys don't know the exact data, the plan is that you will probably have to do some kind of covert insertion and sneak a Pathfinder team behind enemy lines to either blow it up yourselves or, like, lock it down until you can have bombers blow it up or whatever. Have dudes run into the jungle and take it over, though. I don't know if you necessarily have the infrastructure to supply an airbase advance at you on your own easily.
No.
Spend some extra dudes on that, but, you know. I have definitely written even more into my notes because I know you've talked about Arama being more about breaking things than, you know, just stealing things. My note-taking is slightly more aggressive about, like, you know, blowing up enemy bridges and factories and stuff, as opposed to, like, how can this benefit me, right? Like, I'm sure you will take some stuff, but
the savior comes for Cartery. What do you want? A story for children? That's what I.
But
definitely a little more breaking. So yeah, those are the 3, and so with the dam, for instance, you could have accomplished this just through pure sabotage. You know, you guys have done sneaking missions before. You guys could get all gillied up, just crawl into the dam, throw some bombs, and go home.
Only to return 10 years later. I'm never going back to
and that would have suited some of the characters' needs, but not all of them. But that is definitely a thing that would be like a full session. It would be very hard to like intercut it in other characters and, you know, accomplish multiple things. With the supply base, there was also a sneaking option, but you guys, I think, were right away leaning more towards the just net offensive. Because you probably can't salvage some stuff from the supply base just to take it. But you ultimately decided to attack those 2 targets and to go for kind of a mass combat either way. And like I said, in the actual session last week, this was kind of the thing that I was about nailing down, was like, okay, What do you guys want to do?
I knew my father
If
was
you,
likely
you know,
dead,
if
but
you split
I
it
thought
evenly and we
thank
go
you
for a more
your
mass
help.
combat thing, it's probably not
Here.
too much
Here is your
trouble to
reward.
do an
I
actual like
promise.
split offensive.
Mhm.
So long as everybody understands, you know, that we may occasionally be sitting on our thumbs a little bit, as it were. And like I said, honestly, for the supply-based offensive, which like I said, I think we got locked in pretty early that you, Arama, are going to assault the supply base with dudes. I was like, okay, that'll be pretty simple. I'll write a mass combat. I'll come up with some twists and turns. You know, I'll throw some options at you for force comp. You'll make some tactical decisions, and then when it comes down to it, me and Lucky will sit in a corner and roll dice back and forth. We've done this before. Lucky being our Lucky's PC being our primary mass combat.
Yep.
You even have the talent to add force dice to it. So, yeah, you'll be fine flying solo, and you'll have plenty of NPCs, and are also not a slouch in personal combat. Like I joked, if you get ambushed by, you know, commando droid assassins again, which has happened in several mass combats, I think.
Yeah.
Because cut the head off the snake is funny. And very relevant. It's like an actual tactic, and also it's kind of, you know, interesting and even amusing some. That was a really great moment in our first big mass combat where you guys are just minding your own business and just clank the enemies, you know, knocking on the doors of your AT.
You're just
Hello,
like,
Skelegram.
and you're just like, how dare?
Bonk. I think this was pre-Falcon Punch Arama too, so it was like lightsaber. Shooting lightsaber and stuff like that. Stealing swords. So yeah, that was pretty good, but we had to like lock in what the Dam Buster operation would be.
Yeah, because I tried talking to the other players about this because I didn't want them to feel.
Yeah, you didn't want them to feel forced, especially considering you were literally not going to be on that operation.
Yeah. So I wanted to give them options to like kind of do whatever they wanted.
I would not say that they were necessary. Well, yeah, Loth's on a different time scale. I think we had most of this conversation in like, you know, the middle of his night or early hours of the morning. So.
Yeah, but Loth usually doesn't really want to weigh in on plans.
No, he is. He probably should because he's an officer, but he is mostly. I am a humble heelman, heely shootman.
But Axe and Martha definitely talked about it. But Axe also had the thing of like, oh, I'll just do whatever the group wants. I'm just like, okay.
Okay, but what do you want to do? Well, and I think that's important. We bring this. We brought it up to Axe because that's kind of the thing, right? Like he's the sneak character. His thing is sabotage. Though I did point out he will probably get his sabotage duty either way because no matter what happens, you're sabotaging an enemy dam on that operation.
Yep.
But it would be very in character for him to like go on the elite strike team and break stuff. But our other player characters are not necessarily super good at that. You know, Webu's got this whole thing about honor in battle, and also her stealth score is not really great. It's in fact mostly non-existent. It's just some black dice with some green dice with some enhancement from the Force, because Marth can cap it to
6.
What you call it? 6 with force power stuff. Yeah. Well, no, you couldn't do more split up. There's only 3 targets, and you cannot split up the 3rd target. I was a little like, okay, like I wasn't against it for in-character reasons, like fluff-wise. I was like, okay, you guys are gonna have to be very careful about how you pitch this split offensive to me because I'm not, as the GM, obviously, one, it's a little more work for me to like hash out everything ahead of time, but we are planning on taking a hiatus, so it's not a big deal. But also, you know, that means I gotta play like camera switcher and switch back focus to you, and I don't want anybody to, you know, feel bad that like they have to sit out for like an hour possibly, right, while we hash out major stuff. It hopefully won't be that bad. I'm hoping that with the way like mass combat phases work, we can literally do like, okay, phase, you guys tell me what you're doing. All right, cool, everything's going on. Roll some dice. Okay, mass combat's resolved. I'll tell you, you know, we get the basic result. I'll tell you about like fun interactions and vignettes later. All right, other mass combat phase. What are you doing? Plan it. Pitch to me. Roll dice. Okay, switch. You know. You know, like how we've even done this with some combats before, you know, where non-linear combats happen. In fact, we did that with the boss fight in the party, right?
Oh yeah.
where like all 4 player characters and all 3 bosses rolled initiative, and just you guys did the same thing over back and forth. Well, I mean, this is the thing, Axe. You need to open your brain. Nobody has a lot of stuff for mass combat unless you have leadership, but you're supposed to do mass combat with groups of player characters. Gee, what do? You do other fucking things. And I've got some pre-prep and stuff there to talk about as well, but like it's more than like the amount of things that interact with mass combat is very narrow. It's like there are like 2 or 3 spec trees that do it, because it's a system that's not core to the gameplay. It's printed in like an Age of Rebellion adventure, and it's printed in one of the Clone Wars books. It's not a core mechanic. It's just a fun little thing. I think it's in the AR GM's kit, maybe? It's a fun little thing that, like, makes sense, but is not essential. So, like, a lot of it's just, like, hey, you guys are in a big fight. What do you do? Like, how are you contributing, you know? So, like, you got to find your own route. And generally, this is why I usually take time for, like, vignettes and stuff. And, you know, read the GM Holocron, everybody. It says this right in there that, like, player characters in the mass combat don't even have to be the commanders, right? Like, you can have NPCs do that. So you can actually, like, go through and, you know, you guys can do the heroic heavy lifting of stuff and, like, attack key objectives, you know, punch enemies, whatever.
I don't have Castoria yet, so no, Shiro's gamed in. I cannot make a full Castoria support yet. I'm close, though.
So, yeah, you know, you can do a lot of the stuff. So, like, it's just about keeping an open mind. But like, I was mostly concerned about the camera stuff. If the way the airbase works is, no, you can't just send a stealth team to go out for it. I mean, you could, but I'm not gonna let you do it off screen because that's boring. Because that would be, you send guys to go out and handle this problem, and they're gone for like 5 days or God knows what. Off screen? Nah, it's dumb. That's boring. We're not doing that. Like, if my emphasis has not been clear, you don't know where the fuck it is. You have to go into the jungle and find it and blow it up.
Yes.
So, you might be able to do some, like, prep stuff with NPCs to, like, get better at it. You know, who knows? Maybe, like, if you roll some, like, big advantages and stuff in, like, mass combat, you know, you'll notice that, like, oh, the enemy, you know, air defenses came out. This is another reason why, by the way, you wanted to do the split, because until you take out the airbase, they get air supplies, right?
Yes.
So, you know, you've got that option, but you wanted to be like, okay, we'll split them so they don't get reinforcements or they can't double up on reinforcements, and hopefully that will be easy. Which is an interesting solution. I was actually genuinely curious if you guys would go straight to the airbase first, because air support is usually dangerous, and sometimes...
Yes.
But this is the split offensive. I called it out as Morton's Fork. You know, like there's no right option. So they either have to literally split their forces or they have to pick one. And we will probably see what they do depending on what happens in the lead up. Like, yeah, it's not really spoilers, but depending on how you guys do recon and pre-prep, it's entirely possible that you may like accidentally tip off one of the locations about your interests.
Oh yeah.
So they may be like pre-reinforced, but also that may mean that the other one's not pre-reinforced. Didn't tip your... So, it'll probably depend on what your decisions. Like I said, I've already written the recon and pre-prep segments to look out, and I'm sure since Axe has the perception and he will want to go talk about looking at it, he will probably be going himself for the recon elements, because that is a thing. That's in the notes. You guys can choose to go yourself or have people do it. I suspect you'll go yourself because you guys get to roll dice and control your inputs there, rather than relying on me to roll dice for you, which I am not always the best at.
No. Seize your own destiny.
Shit happens, as it were.
As the tree roots
But yeah,
into
so
the
like
earth,
the fact that the
twisted
airbase is
soul,
deliberately
as
written
the
as
fire
like
renews
a
the field, the
like a
birthing
fucking
labours
Tom
produce the
Clancy
fall.
Ghost Recon or
As the
like a
mantis
fucking Far
climbs
Cry
to
kind of
its nest,
situation where like
the
no,
heart
you guys
outstretched
don't
to her
understand.
fair hand.
You
As
will
the
be hoofing
hunter
it through the
kills its
jungle.
prey,
You cannot
beside
avoid this. You
this
can't thwart stage
river
one.
flows from sand.
You will go to the jungle. The dam, I mean, like, you're blowing up the dam because it's in your way, but, like, you can do that, like, 50 different ways. I don't care. I don't actually know. Like, other than the fact that you guys have decided on bombers, and we'll be doing a bombing run, but you guys haven't, like, because obviously we're not going to lock that in ahead of time. You haven't locked in, like, the rest of your escort comp, you know, which will give different bonuses to different types of mass combat and stuff. Check. I think I have an interesting, like I said, haven't written the actual mass combat stuff. I have an interesting idea for how the bombing run will work. I think it'll be in kind of like a, like, it'll be, I think, like cyclical.
Oh, really?
Like, as opposed to being, like, fully structured, I won't do it as, like, one bombing run does it, but more like, okay, you'll do the bombing run, you'll damage the structure, and then you break off. So it'll be like, you know, the phases will repeat. It'll be like, approach, bombing run, disengage, approach, bombing run, disengage, until you either blow up the dam or, you know, the rest of the party gets horribly shot down and has to crawl out of the swamp and get rescued. That's another thing. Because of the way the offensive works, like I said, I'm imagining this as like you will eventually tackle these problems.
For me, it's not a matter of if he'll succeed or not. It's just gonna be the amount of casualties that result from it.
Yes, it's like, will you guys have to like retreat and try again with different strategies and different assets, or what? Right?
Yeah.
Or how many casualties will it take to lock it? Because you know you're going big and going.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be interesting to see. Like I said, I'm not ultimately opposed to the double. I think it's actually quite interesting, and it'll give the other player characters some room to flex, i.e., force them to flex.
Yeah, it's definitely a forcing. It's also why I'm a little concerned.
Oh, I'm sure they'll be fine dice-wise. It's just, will they be able to make decisions? But Marth at least has been... He joined in our conversation about a lot of the pre-prep stuff. So, like, he has been considering the variables and, like, asking questions and thinking thoughts and bringing stuff. So, like, I think there's a decent amount of involvement. And if it's just Loth needs to roll, you know, dice to do leadership because he's the guy with actual officer training classes, you know, he can at least roll dice to give orders.
Mm-hmm.
We joked about it being kind of the Galaxy Quest thing, like Webber will turn to Boots and be like, "Give the order, you know, prepare to fast forward," and then Boots will turn to some other clone and yell, "Prepare to fast forward," and then the clone says, "Fast forwarding, sir." That is basically how I think this is gonna go.
Probably.
While Camo sits in the background and, like, you know, flip switches, shoot guns, goes invisible, does a loop-de-loop, does a kickflip with his jetpack. Whatever it is, Camo does with stuff. It's not about blind confidence. It's just about tactical stuff. Don't you play like Fire Emblem and shit, X? Don't you play tactical RPGs? I feel like we've had this conversation before.
Don't you play like Super Robot Wars a lot, or is that the other group?
No, Axe has definitely been streaming SRW 30. I almost stopped at SR. Super Robot 30. Oh, not right, me. Need another word in there. Like, it's all about, like, you know, picking your units and your tactical stuff and going on. And obviously, like, blobs of clones and fighters are not as, you know, wacky and wild as, like, a mecha tactics game. But, like, it's still similar concepts, you know. And it'll be turn-based, not RTS-based. So you pick your strengths, you do some stuff.
It's like, shoot, like... Yeah,
if you're talking about, like, individual level planning, yeah, sure, I get that, you know. But it's kind of like, it's still kind of like you find a plan. And I mean, I bet you do more strategizing in those games than you think you do, because just because you know the mechanics, that is how it works, right? Like, it's just like how do you pick what unit to engage an enemy with? You know, I assume it's not just big men go shoot. Well, I mean, usually that's my mission objective. But you know, sometimes you have to actually volunteer to be asked. You can't wait to be told what needs to be done. Like, and I think if we were gonna somehow send Camo on a solo, that's what it would be. It would be Arama would turn to Camo and say, "Camo, I need you to do X," and then you're like, "Okay, I will attempt to accomplish X."
Well, the problem with that is Axe has this problem that if he gets an idea in his head, he refuses to let it go, and then sometimes that gets in the way. Like, remember when I had to headbutt him at that mill because I said, "Hey, go get the droid"? He then found out that the droid was Santa Secret, so he decided to come tell me about the secret he learned instead of bringing me the droid. So it's like, oh.
Well, I don't know if I'm receptive.
The embrace of Webwood never ends.
I have a love-hate relationship with mecha nerds.
Mm-hmm.
A gentle stillness.
I like giant robots. I am not necessarily a giant robot nerd man.
This cradle of a balmy secret place.
But like I said, Axe, like, your problem is I don't think you're like necessarily bad at attacks. Like, In the broad scale, yeah, you're horrible. You can't make a decision to save your life, or you come up with the weirdest ideas. But in the moment-to-moment tactical shit, you're fine.
Yeah,
But-
and I mean, a lot of that just goes down to recognizing what you're good at math-wise and applying it.
Yeah.
And, well, I mean, it's an RPG act, so the mechanics are you roll dice to do stuff. I mean, if you want to be good specifically at mass combat, I would recommend, reading that section. But the section is also really vague. It's just like, you have forces. They do stuff.
Smash forces
generally
together.
Generally, the way it works is situational modifiers are boost dice or setback dice. Do you have the proper equipment or training for the specific scenario? Are you guys in a defensible position? Have you had time to pre-prep? Well, I mean, with FFG, it's pretty easy. Mechanically, the best solution is the one where you roll the most dice.
Yes.
Obviously, narrative, that's not that, but then that's when you ask clarifying questions, or Lucky yells at you about how it's not a good idea for you to murder this man.
Mm-hmm. I'm not afraid of yelling.
Well, this is the yelling about bad choices. I don't think anybody has ever said that your decisions about murder with guns is a bad choice. Just that sometimes it's not the most interesting choice. And if you want to personally equate in your brain, not being interesting is automatically negative value judgment, then sure, I don't know. I'm not your therapist, but that's not intrinsically meant that way, right? Well, and that's the thing. I don't think anybody would ask you to straight up plan an operation, but you can have input on what. Okay, I'll phrase it this way, Axe. What Lucky isn't asking for you to come up with a solo plan for you to fight everybody on the dam and blow it up on your own. And I know that's a gross exaggeration of what you may or may not think is happening, but I want to be clear. That's not what's going on. What Lucky is looking for when he talks about how you and Loth are not necessarily giving the input is he would like you to say what you want to do and what you think your character would do, because that's role-playing. Mm-hmm. And as we have brought up earlier, while you do have your own ideas and sometimes you have a problem where you get stuck in your ideas, you also tend to be very much, I'll just do whatever the group wants, which is okay, cool, it's good to know. Not helpful to the conversation then. That is a negative conversation. That is -1 conversation point if you're I'll do whatever. So, we're not counting on we're not counting on Loth to have a lot of input on the plan. He will probably show up and be adverse to just doing whatever he's told, but also, we'll have thoughts and stuff. Also, I mean, Loth hasn't been in a mood to talk to anybody lately. His fucking internet's been freaking out. Bad way. He's very annoyed. Very. Actually, are you a business major by any chance? Throwing out words viable and synergistic.
And no, he's not. He's just trying to use big words to try and make himself sound cool. And he's not, because that's not what I'm doing. Because here's the thing, X. Again, because you guys keep going things oh, I'll do what the group wants to do, that means I have to come up with plans. And then
that is a good point. If everybody says, I'll do whatever, then nobody does anything.
Yeah.
And you guys don't have an NPC to boss you around anymore. I took away that pillar. So the idea specifically with the dam plan is, and I don't know where everybody's at if we're all on the same page on the conversation. But when we started this, we were discussing about input on the dam plan, the dam buster, Operation Broken River, as I called it, because I was going crazy, alluding to everything, and not having to type out the names every single time. So it was. I decided on the dam buster operation is Broken River, and the supply base is Short Sail. Sail is in by, not as in ocean. But basically, I'll put it in a way that will be possibly more, I don't know, rude, but will be more direct. When you guys go on the dam buster operation, Lucky can't help you. He will be busy somewhere else, both in and out of character. I mean, I guess you can call Arma, but I'm gonna be oh, hey Arma, you're getting a call from the dam operation. Also, by the way, you're being bombed right now or something. She's gonna be busy with her own shit, and obviously, like, out of character, Lucky, you know, doesn't have to, like, sit there and not say anything to you. You know, you're all at the same table, you're all friends, you're all hanging out. But in character, he can't give you any input. He can tell you what he thinks out of character, but that's not, like, a guarantee. You guys have to make the decisions. He can't tell you what to do because he's not there. So, like, that's kind of, I think, the crux of where we're at right now with the dam operation is, like, we kind of went back and forth. I think as a, like, group play thing, going with an actual, like, bombing run dam operation was considered best.
Mm-hmm.
All systems should be free for spawn. Okay, good. Good. But, you know, like, how you guys are going to do that and what you're going to do in there, we don't know, and you don't necessarily know. I mean, Axe, why did you say viable and synergistic then? Speak plain.
Like...
Also, no. Sometimes you... That's what... But if you're striking back on this, sometimes you... Cool.
Well, here's the thing, Axe. If you don't do the thing, you do nothing, and that means someone else has to do the thing. And then you can't get up. If you don't do the thing, you can't get upset at other people for trying to do the thing. And don't say you don't get upset, because you do.
Well, Axe has talked about he has a big thing about how he wants to feel like he's being useful and contributing, and oftentimes Axe is talking about, like, you don't have to do that. Like,
yeah.
Much like telling the group that you'll do anything the group says is a -1 conversation. Sometimes just saying you want to contribute and trying to contribute is negative contribution. Like, sometimes things would just flow perfectly if you did not, like, try and force yourself to feel like you're contributing. This is like ultimately this conversation isn't like, no, X, you have to contribute. It's like, well, okay, maybe it says a little, but it's not meant as like, no, you have to contribute. Like, it's not like a weird socialism thing. It's like, okay, you guys are going off on your own. Lucky actually really, other than the initial planning phase, Lucky can't have any input. You guys have to come up with what you're going to do. And, like, yeah, the chain of command is that, like, other characters can tell you what to do, but, like, you need to know what you want to do and when. And, like, yes, you can ask people for input about what you should be doing, but, like, you should not necessarily, like, well, maybe not necessarily. I'm trying to think of my grammar here. The order of operations and everything. It's like you said, if you don't do the thing and other people do the thing, you can't be upset for them for doing the thing. And, like, but also you're not forced to do the thing, right? It's just that, like, if you don't do it, somebody has to do it. Yes. So you can take the initiative when it matters to you, both in and out of character, but you should not be forced to take the initiative. So if you don't have anything to do, like, you know, you don't have to jump in. This is a conversation we've had about the literal initiative system where, like, yeah, oftentimes a lot of characters, either explicitly just to get it out of the way will say they go last, or they will explicitly be like, I guess I could go, but I think, you know, blah, blah, blah wants to go, so-and-so wants to go instead, right? Well, don't care about approval. Also, Lucky doesn't know shit from previous experience. You really blow that out of proportion.
Yeah, I was in the military, but I was on a boat.
Lucky, what was your rank in the Navy?
I was an E3. I was a seaman.
Yeah, that's not very high.
All this knowledge about how I come from planning and stuff comes from playing video games, dude. That's it.
Which you do just as much as he does. If you're just not playing the right video. But, like, yeah, it's all just, like, thinking. And just because me and Lucky have the vocabulary for this, that doesn't mean shit. Everything is still put in the context of light gaming. And like I said before, I have totally just, like, made excuses for dramatic stuff. Like, occasionally, you know, Lucky and I sometimes butt heads, but sometimes just have a conversation point where we talk back and forth about, like, realism versus, like, you know, what makes sense on screen. And, you know, I usually go for what makes sense in the narrative or on screen potential, not necessarily, like, literally true to life, because, you know, we're running a space fantasy game with, like, clones and robot soldiers. It's weird. And not like, you know, modern robot soldiers where, like, we have drones shoot missiles at people, though that does also sometimes. For some reason, they built shitty skeleton infantry drones.
The
troll that stole the ring in the ballad is named... You need to mount the trophies just like the champ. Once he's there, it should be easy business claiming the ring. You need to display them in the ruins. That's what's going to draw out liquor corpulent and get us the ring.
I'm gonna be relaxed. I can't remember the plan. But here's the thing.
Yeah, I mean, that was like 8 months ago.
But here's the thing.
If I remember correctly, no, I think it worked. Like, it worked because you left wiggle room open for like, okay, we start quiet and we have a plan for when we move to loud, and then when it moved to loud, the loud characters did their business, kind of a thing. But it was like, it was a good plan in the sense that if I remember rightly, it was kind of loosey-goosey in general. It was like, okay, we will attempt to do these things, follow through, and then when inevitably something bad happens because we're playing a Powered by the Apocalypse game, we'll just have our shootmen shoot everybody and go home.
Yeah.
That was a step in the plan, and it worked.
Like I said, no plan is perfect, Act. No plan satisfies contact with the enemy, and most of a plan is winging it. You just gotta...
Well, most, we should say this, most if not... Well, a lot, if not most, I should say. RPG tabletop gaming is winging it. It is improv. We're literally playing improv, but with, you know, funny dice rules, you know. We have randomization in there. So, like, yeah. And, like, and I think, like, for the damn thing, like, you don't have to make a plan. You're not in command. You've deliberately built a character who's not a command rank. Like, you don't have clone commander or clone officer. You don't take any big trees. You have a little bit of leadership so you can, like, tell minions around because, you know, you're a cool special forces operator guy. But, like, you don't actually have to contribute in character to high-level planning. Out of character contributing to high-level planning is, hey, we're doing a big complex thing. Do you have anything you want to do or what you think you would be best at? You know, like, if you know... Well, yeah, because that's what your character strengths are. And then when the other characters are like, okay, we could split our forces and do it, you know, we'll work on it. And, you know, there's still opportunities for stuff. You guys don't have complete information. This is a thing I did reference a couple of times. Like, when we were having our back and forth, I was like, yeah, I got that in my notes, you know. I've worked on the possibilities. I have options to do. Rather than, like, drill down exactly what those options were out of game, right? Because we're probably weeks from playing this anyway, so... some questions I feel just like, yeah, I've got notes. Which is a little dismissive, but makes sense when we're in a literal pre-prep phase. Well, that's what we're saying, though, Axe, like, ultimately, is you shouldn't feel like, you don't have to feel like you had something to add. Like, we picked on the plan because it worked for the stuff that Lucky wanted to do, and that the other characters were interested. There was a little bit back and forth on whether you should sneak, but I pointed out for, like, a character stuff, like, not only is Webu bad at that, but her military duty of ground and air support is not going to get done if you guys bomb a dam from the inside, like if you do a sneaking.
Yeah.
That is not technically what Webu's character is about in that sense. So that was, like, going for the, you know, flying kind of... and in that plan, I don't know what you'll be doing, you know? There could be a lot of things. You guys have talked about whether or not you will have, like, infantry support like, in the wings. There's plenty of crew space in the bombers you guys are using, you know. Some of you guys could be flying and stuff. Well, it's not about being useful. Lucky is asking for your input, period. Like, is there anything you want to be doing? Because I don't think Lucky's actually asking you for a solution. Lucky, are you asking for them to come up with the whole plan on their own?
No, I just want to know what they want to do, so when I come up with a plan, I can take those into consideration.
Yeah, like, it's just like, what would you like to be doing? And if you're just like, I'll do whatever, then he's like, okay, well, I'll just do what I was planning then. Like, it's not about being useful. You are putting it in a perspective of utility. It is more about an aspect of fun. What do you guys want to be doing? What are your characters supposed to be? You know? Like we said, you know, you're a sneakman. If you would prefer to do sabotage, you know, maybe there are things you can do on the ground which would be technically separate from the other characters but would work because the mass combat is, you know, very macro scale. Time's a little loosey-goosey. So it's not a subject of, like, solution and you know, like, solving. It's like, hey, what would you, Axe, want to do?
Like, 'cause Like off the top of my head, like I know you have jump packs, and like we can, like if we wanted to, we could probably bring a couple of gunships of clones in, and on the bombing run, you can like dart in, maybe jump out of the gunship with your jump packs, and maybe like take some rocket launchers to the AA, or maybe blow some bombs. It'd be a little intense because you have bombers like on your 6, literally about to drop hot payloads on your ass, but it's something you can do. It's a thing. Like
and like I also said, this is all like very pre-prep. You guys literally haven't looked at the target yet.
Yeah.
Things may come up that may appeal to your different strengths because, you know, I'm writing these notes and I know what all my characters are good at.
Like, so, Axe, all I was looking for you is like, listen to you is like, no, I'll be fine just flying in the damn plane, or I'd like to be on a ground team and do something interesting. That's all I needed. That's all I needed.
Yeah. Like, what do you like? I don't think we've ever gotten annoyed at you for wanting to do something you want to do in a narrative sense. Mechanically, the players have occasionally been slightly annoyed at the way you have murdered bosses before they can do anything interesting. Also, I as the GM have gotten slightly annoyed because, you know, sometimes I spend a lot of time crunching numbers and then it doesn't matter. I've learned lessons over 90 episodes. Well, and I think you did, but this is the thing, Axe. Like we said, you're also a little waffly. Like, you're like, well, we could all just go in the plane, I guess. I mean, I prefer to sneak, but then as we, like, move away from the thing, you know, then it's like, okay, well, we'll figure out other stuff for you guys to do if we're not going to do a mainline sneak plan. Like, the goal of the operation is not to sneak and destroy the dam. It is more of a, like, you know, you could sneak to sabotage elements and go, like, there. And, like, sometimes, you know, you have to sacrifice, I guess, you know, like, for the good of the team, right? Like, you know, I don't know if Boots will necessarily be at his happiest riding shotgun, you know, shooting guns or dropping bombs or whatever. In the plane, because he can't do any medic stuff up there for the most part. But I know that Loth will probably be like, especially because he may or may not need to roll leadership checks to help with actual mass combat stuff. He will probably be okay. No, I mean we're literally having a conversation with you, and we're talking about our game stuff. We're not talking about anything else. Why the heck would anybody else care? We're having the conversation of the podcast now. If it wasn't weird, we could fucking pip you in to talk, but also you'd never be able to get anything in if you were not in text. I'm gonna be honest with you. Lucky to be here on the show. It would not be possible.
Nope.
Not unless Lucky got attacked by like a spider and I got like distracted by like a shiny bird. Shiny keys. But no, I don't think it's ruined the stream. This is the conversation. I brought up the Star Wars thing and like how it is kind of a big endeavor. Like there's a lot of things to think about and like I don't think Lucky or I necessarily want to like put you or Loth down for like lack of initiative or involvement.
I don't want to put you down, but I definitely want more from you, I guess.
Yeah, but like at the same time, we are doing collaborative storytelling, so like I as the GM and Lucky as your fellow player in this would like to like draw out a little of the collective storytelling stuff, right? And same for Loth. And sometimes we get stuff out of Loth, and sometimes we don't get stuff out of Loth. But you know, it's his fun, so it's his free time. So he, you know, does whatever, or he just eats grilled cheeses or whatever. I'm sorry, I'm caught up with the grilled cheese thing. That was a Yu-Gi-Oh situation this week where like Loth jumped out just before his match to go do the grilled cheese, and he was like, "Oh shit, we're back, we're going." Fuck, I got a second grilled cheese. Hold on.
He usually would just go off and not actually say anything either.
Well, he did warn. I definitely have like, I feel like occasionally, and I know some of it's because I'm kind of a loudmouth. Like I usually talk through my thoughts a lot, but like I also am very diligent about checking text. I sometimes feel like several of the people in both the gaming group and the Yu-Gi-Oh group don't always make a big deal about when they're popping off and like call my attention to things. Like, well, shit, I was, you know, getting ready to work on speaking to you. Now we gotta like hold on a second. Whoops, you know, juggle things. But yeah, no. So to finish up our Star Wars point a little, or to go deeper down in the hole, who knows?
Who knows?
We're only at 2 hours and 15 minutes. Who knows? Who knows? Look at us. But yeah, so there's like a lot of planning back and forth, and like I said, there's definite elements of like player involvement, and I'd love the players to be like completely involved. But sometimes, you know, you're tired. You're just here to roll dice and crack jokes or whatever. Or you know, in character, your character doesn't have anything to contribute. You know.
Yeah, I think what I'd rather hear from you, Axe, if you don't have anything you have anything to add, just say I don't have anything to add instead of just saying I'm fine with whatever the group has. That's what I'm supposed to do. Because that at least lets me know that you have nothing that you want to contribute. When you say
you don't have anything niggling at you, and if you do have something you want to say, even if it's like counter to the group, you know, feel free to bring it up. You may want to qualify with like, well, I'd kind of prefer if we did the X plan, but we're going in a different direction. And then that tells Lucky, like, hey, maybe then we can work on some element of stuff. Or, you know, keep an eye out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, honestly, like I said, the way our current setup works is, no matter what we do, you're going to have to do your special thing, Camo, because, like I said, I'm literally making you guys hike through a fucking jungle. That is how your character started. Carry big gun, hike through jungle. Yeah, like that. It's a lot of people like to be like nice and say, it was a little sassy, but I don't think it was too bad. You've accidentally said sassier things, and I say accident because I know you.
No, I don't think saying like you're fine with whatever the group wants is sassy, but I do think it's kind of.
No, he meant the thing he just said. Admit to absence of ideas until further notice, and I'm like, maybe a little sassy, but like. No, you're gonna deal with it.
We got to deal with it.
These are not mutually exclusive. Like, sorry if you ended up with the wrong impression of that. No. These are all necessary.
Yes.
Lucky just wants to tackle two at once because Lucky is a madman.
A bit, yes. Listen, I have plans to try and drop Sierra Mobile out of a fucking ship.
Yeah, Lucky asked me, like, how does fall damage work for vehicles? And I'm like, well, it doesn't really. I guess that technically falls under the rules for collisions. And you're like,
It's like,
your main problem would be that your vehicle's not submersible. So what you're telling me is I can buy the amphibious mod. And I'm like, yes, that would work. That is how rules do.
This is how Lucky works, y'all, by the way. I have a really...
No. It is not invalid. In fact, you must deal with it. We were talking about, like... Because I think at some point the discussion was, can we do all three at once? And it was like, no, that's not possible.
Yeah, I think I said that. Just straight out, like, no, we can't. We can't split the forces because... Again, your airbase target's literally in the middle of the jungle. You don't know where it is. You guys can't send an infantry platoon or an infantry company or detachment to go, like, find it with sticks. That's not how you do this sort of thing. That would be a gross waste of resources, and you'd never get the timing synced up. To go back to an earlier point in our conversation about, like, you know, if you guys would, like, send NPCs to suppress the airbase. I mean, I don't think you guys get that synced up. You're in enemy territory. You know that while the dam is up, they have better sensors, probably have better listening devices, right? You know, you got to be careful about that kind of stuff. While they got the supply base, you know, they got extra supplies, maybe supplies that you can use. Maybe, you know, you guys will be able to just take free supplies for your jungle hike. Who knows? But yeah, I'm gonna roll back to finish my thought from earlier. A lot of people I think are just being like they're getting nice, right? And they're trying to be like cordial and friendly when they say, "Oh, I'm free for whatever." And most of the time they are free for whatever, but when you say that, that's not necessarily contributing to, like, planning, team building, whatever, right? What's Plasma Octopus?
I don't remember what the Octopus level in...
Octopus grade? I think that was... Called. Wasn't Octopus no alerts?
Yeah, but sometimes they have subtitles. But also sometimes they're just the animal, you're just Octopus. I do think Octopus no alert. Like, the OG Metal Gear Solid was Decoy Octopus, and then it was Laughing Octopus in 4. I don't remember if there was any subtitle to the Octopus thing in 5. I mean, if you wanted to do your Metal Gear Solid codename, Plasma Octopus would be good. Also, I would like to point out one of your guys' companies is Octopus Company. because I'm a funny man. But yeah, it can be helpful to be like, oh, I have no particular preference. I'm down, down to climb whatever. That can be like very great and very non-pressuring to like GMs and other players in this context, and even in other projects to be like, oh, we can do whatever. But think of it this way, basically, right? Like, okay, we're at the couch. We're playing games. We've just played Mario Party Superstars or whatever. That new Mario Party that came. We will not play because we don't want to hate ourselves. Mostly because of Mario Party stuff, not because the game's bad. I've seen some stuff. It looks cool, but, Switch on. But, like, we've just finished a mad round of Mario Party. One of the guys on the couch asks you the question.
What do you want
Hey,
to
I'm
eat?
hungry. What do you guys want for dinner? Yeah, Lucky knows. And then you don't, in that situation, it is not socially adroit to say, I'm down with whatever. Like, yeah, that can be helpful, but that doesn't help the question of, like, when the guy asks, what do you want to eat? This is why there's usually the rule is, it's kind of like a reverse, he who smokes Delta is, the guy who says, what do we want to eat, has to come up with a suggestion first. Mm-hmm. You got to be ready. You got to be like, I'm hungry. I'm thinking pizza. And then that at least gives other people the out of being like, no, I don't feel like pizza, or like, yeah, I go pizza. But like, fries and wings, or takeout. I would definitely with fries and sushi, but that's because I'm not a big fish. That's a meat. I've never gotten on the sea. But yeah, like it's okay to not jump in when the dinner question comes up if you really don't care. Like, people will usually, if they're not assholes, will check in and be like, all right, you all right with pizza? And be like, yeah. And then you can be like, no, I'm actually good with pizza. Like, I usually try to check in with all my players when we're doing these kinds of, like, round robin things, right?
Mm-hmm.
My men and I were somehow using strategy.
And, like, ask you, okay, you okay with this? You got anything you want to be doing and whatever? And, like, hey, like we said, sometimes the juices don't flow. I've been in games and been like, I have no preference or no idea what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, did you get a trophy pop while I wasn't looking?
Yeah, no, I just I've killed a lot of things.
Nice. So many spiders.
A lot of spiders. Would you like spiders with that? No.
Correct.
I'm getting spiders anyway.
No, it happens. You're in the spider.
There's always a spider.
You know what line Dexter says?
I bet it is.
Look out for the spider. The spider king. Who would have known there was spiders? The spider king. But yeah, so like other than our little, further adventures of group therapy session in the middle of the episode, which often happens, I kind of like how What's Up often turns into, even though it's like a week later, it turns into, the post-game carnage.
Axe has a lot of things on their mind.
Yeah. Love occasionally has things on too, but he not always here at the time space because of the power of the upside down. Martha's also usually pretty good about popping into What's Up and offering his opinions for the chat as well.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like it's just we're in kind of an interesting place because of the way our other players, which we've talked about at length, usually is, right? Lucky is usually our first cut plan guy. Like, occasionally you guys have directly had plans, like, right away. Like, usually Axe, if he has a thought, right? But, like, sometimes even Loth and Marth have been like, no, I have a thing I want to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and then we get to it. But sometimes you guys don't, and often, like I said, by default, somebody has to have a plan. I can only make you guys be reactive so long. And sometimes I have to make you be reactive, period. Sometimes we get a little too planning, and I have to just be like, okay, I poked a bear. Oh, I think you've had opportunities, but this was a really... I don't want to say the dance party was low stakes. I deliberately made it very high stakes at several times. But it was a deliberately different type of scenery that characters I think could flex their muscles a little bit cleaner. Because Axe is talking about getting into establishing a I don't know quite how serious, but at least a intentional, romantic relationship with another character, building your social and stuff. That's, that character is technically a recurring NPC. I definitely deliberately structured it that way when she was first showed up. And I was not so unsubtle that, like, as Lucky points out on mic, that he didn't catch it when we talked about it.
Mm-hmm.
I deliberately designed my role-playing. Armanda Gunstar thinks that Camo is cool and that Boots... she probably doesn't think Boots is a fuck-up anymore, but, Boots is a joker. And she's a hard-working country gal. Hunting, scouting, running a hotel. She got shit to do. There are definitely NPCs who enjoy Boots' content, but they are not in a majority. Well, actually, that's not true. There are a shitload of clone NPCs who probably find Boots perfectly serviceable, but they are almost literal spear carriers. So,
then
yeah, Lucky is definitely not afraid to go with the selfish option.
Nope.
If he sees something he wants to do, he is not afraid to take those reins. And like, you're not usually like an asshole about it. Like if the other characters are like, no, I don't really want to do that, you'll be like, okay, can I still do it on my own? But you don't go out of your way to drag other players into shit they don't want to do straight up.
Mm-hmm.
But you are not afraid to be like, but I have a cool idea. None of you have cool ideas, so go for it.
For your part in saving me, you have my thanks. And you're welcome.
I try to find a nice compromise and whatnot, usually.
Yeah. I mean, heat of the moment, funny moments. We've talked about the story before where you deliberately, you did like a fucking meme face almost of like turning to the other player characters, being told, no, don't do that, and then just like, you didn't literally, because I don't think you were quite that salty about it, but you just pushed the big red button while also flipping the metaphorical bird. You were like, not doing it. But that is a rare instance that we remember because it was a little annoying, but is also kind of funny in retrospect because, we're playing a fucking make-believe game with plastic spacemen, right? It's not a big deal. Sometimes shit is a big deal, but it's not mostly a big deal. Much like children's cards. But, usually you try to be like, okay, here's what I want to do. What do the rest of you guys want to do? I want to, like, work you in. Can we do different things? So ultimately, like we've gone back and forth on this a lot, but you guys decided to do the split momentum. Like I said, I've done a lot of the pre-prep work. I need to actually write out my mass combat faces, but we'll be doing something else that I don't necessarily have to do prep work for because I did all the prep work on a whim right away afterward, which is a thing I often do when I'm working. Is I wildly switch between projects that inspire me. Yeah, the Tombs of Cloud thing was really weird, by the way. The two clone players, you guys took that very differently. Like, Loth and Boots are like fucking like heartbroken about it, and I'm like, this is very weird. But I'm gonna keep pushing this button because it doesn't seem like we're actually in real life upset. It's just a very funny thing, and that I do completely understand that like you and Camo are gonna be like, just like, oh, I'm so glad this weird dumb thing you did has come back to you in this way that is like. Kind of like biting you in the ass, but also not because it's really low stakes. It's just funny. Because, like, usually what happens when Boots makes a bad wisecrack or comes up with a dumb plan, which Loth is not afraid to have Boots do dumb things. That is not a problem he had. It is, like, usually, like, Arama or one of the other player characters, like, thump him on the shoulder or gives him, the old dope smack to the head. Don't do that. He's dumb. What are you thinking? Or NPCs will occasionally try to, like, flay his skin or whatever for his bad jokes.
I don't know which one would have led
but they're NPCs, that's what villains do. They don't have sense.
Windows, check the cellar, and pray the spiders. I'd be happy to fix up old
but that was a really funny read, I think, how that the whole thing turned out.
Be ready in no time. Well, it sure would be useful to have an alchemy work. The alchemy work.
I appreciate they let me have a house. I need a place. I've been kind of homeless for like a week.
That's cool.
I can't say I know much, but
It's almost as if the stories are now... The main floor has been expanded as much as possible. You'll be amazed when you see that at... Well, I'll have to watch out for the riverbed. I can add on I'll go ahead.
But there was also another fun thing about to kind of move away from Star Wars to think a little bit, mostly because I think we talked that one to death in the weeds.
Somehow a spider got in when
I think there are more points we could raise, but man, we really got into the weeds a couple of different times. Don't feel bad, Axe. It's not all your fault. There's several. Lucky and I found several patches of weeds in that conversation.
Oh yeah.
But there is something I do want to remember, thinking about. I want to make sure to mention on air was that, you know, speaking of me and project stuff, was it this week I did actually get a little private call from somebody about Mages of War.
Oh really?
Yeah, somebody wanted some ruling advice. They're actually, you know, playing Mages of War in the wild.
Oh, what?
Great to hear. Yeah, I know there's a couple of people who've read it and said they were in, but this is like the first time I think I've actually heard somebody like report back. And they just had some rules clarification question, you know, and I checked in my notes. They were asking about Overwatch, actually, and how that works with, like, enemies who are already in line of sight versus not in line of sight. And, you know, double-checked my notes and my, like, okay, so technically, rules is written, it says, when they move into line of sight, I, as a GM, would probably go for, if they're, like, out in the open, and they... Oh, but someone in the server. They said they're a patron, actually. They're follow our APs. I don't want to, like, out them because, you know, it was, like, a DM conversation. But, yeah, I don't think it's a secret.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, by the way, if I don't name people, it's not me being, like, coy. It's just because I feel like it's kind of rude to, like, go throwing out names on the podcast when some people aren't even listening to us, like, right this second, you know?
Yeah.
It feels kind of weird for me to, like, randomly bring people's names. Like, I don't throw out the names of, like, family. I just, you know, casually mention, oh, yeah, you know, this person, my dad, my mom did this. You know, we're not, like, don't gotta go deep ball. It's a little weird. It's just me thing. But I was talking about, like, I looked over the action, so, you know, my ruling would be, like, if they're out in the open and they move and they stay in line of sight, you can proc Overwatch. Technically, what you're supposed to do if you really want to lock somebody down is use the suppress action instead. But I did also, like, actually note that, like, was no rulings on how to end Overwatch, like, when it actually ends. So I actually jotted it down in there. Overwatch ends if you are moved, or if you are hit by an attack, or if you take any other action. So if you take a new action on your turn, or if you take active defense action. So, like, yes, I think it's fair that if you declare an Overwatch and there are people already in line of sight in your Overwatch zone and they move and stay in your Overwatch zone, you can still take your free shots. You know, good boy XCOM style. But also, like, they can just shoot at you instead of moving and falling for the Overwatch trap, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, trying to close some loopholes. And, you know, I said to this person, and I'll say it now, I'm you know, glad for the feedback. Good to hear about people, you know, people being interested in playing it out in the wild. They kind of phrased it as like, you know, they said, I hope you return to the project, and I'm like, you know, I think Mages of War is feature complete, actually. There's some fluff stuff that I do still need to iron out a little about, like, how much detail I want to go to, but I don't want to, like, you know, I think it's mostly complete. Like, I'd love to, like, do a publishing run. I don't think we swing that money right now to go for a Kickstarter to do a publishing run on a book, not even print on demand, you know. But I think the game is complete, and I'm glad for people to see it. We've got a full campaign playthrough and some playtesting on our channel. Actually, the campaign is arguably a playtest game. We always joke about how, you know, eternal beta.
Yeah.
I think several times we literally changed rules on the fly.
Yeah. Well, like I said, we're literally, like, trying to figure out how to, like, does this work? No, it doesn't, actually, huh?
And it's then like, well, shit, now I've got to make something that works. Decide if we go in there. So, yeah. I mean, I could, you know, stitch together some prefab adventures and try those out, but I'd also want to make sure I play-tested them, and I don't know if I've got the super free time to do that, or the inspiration, but I could take the time. But I'm just glad to hear the interest in stuff. Much more likely what you're likely to see at me is either more fiction and stuff. Like I said, I literally, within the past couple of months, wrote what I think is the intro fiction for Mages of War, right? Which I think I publicized on the channel and stuff. I should probably link it to the document if you're interested in checking. But, like, mostly what you're probably going to get more likely, you're going to get actual development on Mages 2020 with looser goosier. Oh, though I will say, as always, people with publicly shared Google documents, do be careful where you double-click. I do occasionally get emails and phone alerts about suggestions on the document.
What is it?
I could turn those off, but I do like to leave them open because I don't know who's reading it. But if people have actual like suggestions, catch grammatic errors, it happens.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm only one man. I've had like Lucky and the guys proofread the document. Of course, there's stuff out there. But also, you know, that means occasionally you can do stuff like, you know, accidentally double-click on the bottom of the page and suggest add footer. And usually most people are like, oh shit, I made a suggestion, let me take that away. But I still do sometimes get the notification, so be careful with those things. It's not a huge deal, like I said. It doesn't like flood my inbox, but I do occasionally wake up and see like Google Drive, 8 suggestions, and I'm like, okay, these real suggestions? No. Took care of it. Cleaned up. All right. Problem solved.
You again? With all your comings, the Warsworn and the House of Ballads.
But yeah, that was just you know, I think I've talked about before how DMs often make me anxious, but I would, oh, that's a nice treat. And then I had to actually work my brain. I had to double check my shit.
Mm-hmm.
Think about how I phrased balance. Because I gotta be real. I don't think you guys did a whole hell of a lot of Overwatch.
No.
I think a couple of times.
Yeah, it happened. Like, yeah, I was about to say. Like, I think we did it occasionally, but
I think even I'm pretty sure that's one of the gunslinger abilities that Marth got was the ability to take 2 reactions time when dual wielding.
Oh yeah,
actually used.
No, if I remember correctly, I think Mark used Overwatch when we were staking out that convoy and just like ended like 6 mages in like 1 turn because he just kept firing off Overwatch.
because he jumped over the sand dune and declared Overwatch, basically looking at the entire convoy. And the way Overwatch works, if you're unfamiliar with the system, it's literally the rule is taken from my XCOM home. And so it's an XCOM style Overwatch, and basically the rule is if a character moves within your and moves within your line of sight, moves to within your line of sight while you're declaring Overwatch, you get 3 reaction shot against them. There is no limit to the number of reaction shots when you use Overwatch. So.
And Marth was Marth was very good.
Yeah, but so basically he was a gunslinger at this point. He had 2 custom high caliber revolvers, and then, you know, he rolled initiative first and just popped over the hill and I Overwatch because, you know, boss's plan has there. And then, you know, you popped over the hill and were like, tally ho! And then, you know, like 6 enemy dudes, their initiative came up. They tried to, like, you know, break cover from the truck because I think you actually blew one up just as simple. Shot it up or something, and we're like, all right, scatter. So they scattered, and they scattered directly into Marth's Overwatch, and like I said, he had big boy custom revolvers. That guy moved, bang, he's dead. That guy moved, bang, he's bang, bang, bang. I'm out of bullets, fuck. You know, which is the limitation, because many weapons are not heavily ammo weapons. And so like suppressed gunning down many at once. I mean, I have certain limitations for like economy stuff, but technically, if you're trying to attack multiple dudes at once, it's I think like full auto or spray and pray mechanics are best because you can daisy chain attacks together. You can be like, I'm gonna fire full auto burst. Those 2 guys are standing like a meter apart. I can hit both of them with at least 1 bullet in this burst, you know. Yeah, but if you're trying to keep guys from moving, penalize them, suppress is better for guys you already see, because suppress forces them to keep their head down, it makes them shittier at shooting back at you, and it makes them, well, one, it literally prompts a fear check unless you have special training, because getting hit with suppressing fire is scary. And if they try to move, you shoot at them first. Overwatch is more like, okay, I don't see guys, or I don't see all the guys I want to see. I want to just, you know, I know there's bad guys around this corner. I know the sectoid squad is out there, right? Like I said, it's an XCOM style Overwatch. So you actually go, Nah, I'm going to Overwatch, and if any guys come into my zone, if anybody opens this fucking door, I'm going to fill them full of lead. And it is technically optional. You may take reaction shots. So, you can pick some stuff. But, it was kind of just a thing where I, like, looked at my different options on the action table, and I was like, okay, so normally you'd probably go at this angle, but hypothetically you're only supposed to be able to suppress, like, 1 or 2 targets at a time, you know?
Mm-hmm.
You might actually, you know, Overwatch is line of sight based, so it's broader, you know, based on where you're looking. So, you know, you might do that situation. I think it makes sense, but there's some different actions for stuff. And technically, it's called Overwatch, but you could even use it to, like, ready melee attacks, like if you did want to, like, wait by a door, because it's any basic attack. So you could draw your saber, stand on the other side of the door, and declare Overwatch and thump anybody who walks in the door. They just have to be in range of your weapon. There's a lot of little tactical niggly bits in Mages of War. It's been a little but I remember most of the rules, my basics.
Mm-hmm.
We do have some people in the server who've never played Mages of War. Like I said, I'll probably get bit by the bug to do, like, an adventure or something eventually, which I can do as, like, a prefab and, like, to circulate to people to try.
Mm-hmm.
I think I have some, like, a couple of decent examples in some of the sections, like in the Marshals, about how we apply stuff. Say we have the APs first. But if I do have time to stitch something together, we can always grab that as, like, like how we do the sprawl for some short stuff. I do have an idea for sub-mages, like, partially sketched out. But that was mostly as, like, okay, sub-mages are the one thing we haven't practiced. We've done flying, we've done ground. Sub-mages are, like, the thing we haven't actually tested, so I kind of want to, like, see how that works. Yeah, that conversation got a little more involved. We did some reminiscing. We talked about some... Yeah, I think we talked about that at length there. Yep. I mean, not literally underground tunneling, but no, you guys, the players have done ground mages. And technically, even though they're flying mages, the flying mages did attack the tunnels. Yeah. Very fun in the dark. Did you guys, I think you guys stayed flying because it was quieter. Like the buddy system, like hands on shoulders flying. Great. That was also, I think that was, you guys were literally in an oil storm at one point in that scenario as well.
I think that was like the first fucking, one of the first fucking missions for that campaign. If I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think it was like number 2. Like the first time is you guys attacked like a, you had a very, very basic bitch air raid mission, which is you guys flew in circles in a night raid and shot bullets into a village the enemy had taken over on your side of the river. Then you guys scooched across the river, I think, or like down the way to the enemy like listening post, which was in a minefield somewhere. And you guys tried to do some sneaky pants stuff with disarming the mines, but that didn't work. Then you had to do some very not sneaky pants stuff, like hiding in dirt stuff. And
if you need more information,
I mean, it's not blood diamonds, but no, Lucky did use ritual casting to make it rain diamonds for cash.
An ominous name.
Then we put them all in a secret cave.
Yeah. We got to play, like I said, world building loudly. I love my world building details. You know, it's something I incorporated into, like I said, I've done a lot like when I've been writing Poison 7 back again. Makes it sound cool. But that is definitely one of the interesting things, is talking about how Aether, the magical energy, like, works with stuff and how it's elementally coded. So, you know, you get, like, what do you do when you get an Aether burst in, like, a weather formation? Yeah, okay, you get literal, you know, firestorms, but also, what does that look like when, like, Earth mana manifests as a weather phenomenon? Oh, it literally rains mud or oil. You know, what happens when you get metal? Well, it rains... gems, and it, you know, or it snows steel, iron snow. No, I mean, minerals aren't rare for a mage, but you have to be the right kind of mage. This is the thing to go about. Like, yeah, there is I think it's in both versions. There's literally Chrysopoia. There is a medium level element spell that is used to like transmute, you know, base metals into precious metals into base metals, etc. But like, I think it's a process that's like it takes minutes per casting, and this is the thing, right? Mages are not necessarily the most populous thing. Like, this is kind of why the excuse of why history is somewhat similar to how you remember it, you know, for the alternate universe kind of stuff. It's because mages can only do so much, and they are limited by their resources. These guys, you know, spawned a rain of diamonds to, like, secrete as a cash thing, as a, like, really big ritual that took them, I think, a decent chunk of money, because you had to prep, like, you know, ritual arrays and like, draw up material components and stuff. Like, it wasn't a... like, it wasn't an easy endeavor. It is not something you can do in your free time. Yes, metal mages can, like, be like, ah, this block of iron you've given me, it's now gold, but you still need the block of iron. You can't... Well, okay, you can manifest something from nothing, because you can manifest it from ether, but even then, that's not something from nothing. It's not like there's no elemental plane of metal, you just open a hole and iron falls out. You have to make the iron from something, so it usually comes from deposits in the earth, or, like, you spontaneously turn your aether into iron, but that aether wasn't originally iron, so it usually just goes back into aether. This is actually something because this was a question you asked me, because you were playing a metal mage. It's like, hey, Omega, if I do Rain of Swords and I just throw 100 swords out at somebody, can I pick up those swords and hit a guy with them? And I'm like, well, yeah, probably. I mean, they're swords. That's a high-level spell. You know, you're creating many complex geometric shapes at once. But I guess I got to work out how that works, which is the weapons degrade after, I think it's after sunrise or sunset.
Yeah.
And they count as improvised because they are just mental projections. They're not fine. I mean, convert what waste into other stuff? I mean, yeah, you could just cast, you know, Rain of Swords and Rain Swords in plain field and go like, all right, guys, pick a sword. But, like, they're going to be shitty and they're going to go away after a day. That's not good for logistics, because there is a kind of conservation of magical energy in this setting, whereas you can't make something from nothing. Aether comes from things, and it's generated by, like, natural processes in the world, you know, geomancy and whatever, and generated by living things. But it's, you know, it's a cycle, it's a flow, right? It's a little bit like Wuxing, where, like, you know, elements flow into each other, right?
Right.
Like, you know, fire flows out of wood, I think we would say, and can flow into air. Fire makes smoke. You burn wood, it produces fire. So you can convert wood aether into fire aether into air aether. You can't convert fire into water because they're diametrically opposed. If you put the two together, they cancel out. Same with earth and air, and wood and metal, void and poison. Even poison has its place, right? Poison is the black mana is the charm of death, the charm of stagnation. So, you know, when a living creature dies, its living aether becomes, you know, black aether. It goes back. I mean, like, you could do some environmental stuff, and I think that's actually mentioned in some of my subplots about Mages 2020. Is like, Mages 2020 is probably in a better place as far as ecological disasters go, because, like, mages realize that we're fucking with the earth and lines and should probably do something about it. But, like, you don't cast magic for free. It comes from something. Like, literally, you get... that's one of the rules, right? If you fuck up a spell, is you can push, right? And then you become fatigued. I think if you take so many extra levels of fatigue, you just pass the fuck out.
I don't know.
Should probably double check what the rules are if you keep pushing. But you get tired, and getting tired sucks. Being fatigued fucking sucks.
Coffee is great.
Coffee does not make you not fatigued. It just means you don't take the penalties for being fatigued for so many hours.
Yep.
But, like, so even if you had, you know, a university class full of recycler mages at the recycling plant, you know, elementally transmuting, garbage plastic back into its base components to be clean plastic. Those guys would eventually run out of juice and fall over. They'd eventually have to take in more energy. It's not a perpetual motion machine. That probably are, like, if you can afford them, or, like, when mages get in there are probably, like, complex enchanted processes and stuff for quickly recycling your products. I believe I've talked about how, ironically enough, plastic should be governed by wood. Because a lot of plastics come from, some plastics come from, like, cellulose materials, like straight up plant fiber, but, even if you think about the chemical composition of a lot of plastics, it's similar to natural substances and is related to the decaying of natural stuff with, like, petrochemicals. But that could be a case where you say, Earth flows from wood.
Magic, I suppose.
Because, like,
they don't seem to do much of anything.
Crude oil
to me.
Would be Earth. But anyway, you could do things to, like, make those more environment friendly, but eventually your mages run out of juice. And even if you enchant items for you, which is more energy intense but runs longer, you still eventually, this is actually a point in the setting, like, doing indefinite enchantments is a real huge pain in the ass, and even then it only lasts so long. It's a year and a day is your usual long term, and then if you're doing it, like, really long, it's like you get 100 years. And guess what? 100 years fucking later, you have to call a specialist, and he has to redo the whole fucking thing. Well, not the whole thing, because all your materials are still present, but, like, you have to redo the enchantment. So, everything is, like, sick. The only stuff that is vaguely indefinite is still not indefinite because it relies on the natural rate of eighth light. Ley lines are mostly permanent, but environmental changes can change ley lines. It's a whole complex world-building thing talking about, like, elemental affinities and how that relates to, like, spirits, the genius, elementals, phantasmal creatures. Yes, I stole phantasmals from Fate. It's good, though. Fantastic. I like it. And how that relates, so those things can shift. Like, you might have a nexus of mana that's Earth, like, in a deep mountain. But what happens if there's, like, a fault slip and that mountain, like, actively becomes volcanic? Oh shit! Now it's a wellspring of fire, man. What if it was a volcano and it goes extinct? Now the fire cools, it stops spreading fire aether out, it becomes something else.
The king's token is worthy of walking in Winston's stead. He is one who prefers action to discussion. A tempestuous firebrand who would rather pursue. That is why his ballad is such a stirring one. Ferrara will always be the lovable rogue who finally chooses another.
So, like, yeah, there's a lot of natural cycle to stuff. I think most of the quote-unquote indefinite enchantments are, like, the really big stuff is, like, hey, I bound a spirit into my sword. Now it does things because it has a spirit in it that is, like, not 100% alive, because our, scientific definition of life involves shit like cells and respiration and shit like that. But, like, there's a thing in here that does the thing. And so long as the thing exists, it will keep doing its thing. But even then, what happens if you break the thing or you fuck with its elemental affinity? Because elements, cancel out transition. It's a whole complex process. I have put a lot of thought into writing a functional magic system where magic A is magic A, and you can't just wave magic at every problem. Because, like, mages are cool, they can do a lot. The setting would be bullshit, and there would be no conflict if mages could solve everything. So, yeah, okay, a mage can 1v1 a tank, but a mage can't, like, stop the tank from existing, right?
Right.
Tank will still exist, and a mage probably can't 1v1 in a tank company, because that's a lot of fucking tanks and a lot of dudes. You only have so much juice. This is a thing I talk about a lot when I talk about the fiction, is, like, how the characters get their energy, where they think of it, how they form spells and stuff. And, occasionally characters pass out.
Occasionally.
So that's how the fiction ends. The intro fiction I wrote, Winds of War. The primary character, realizes the enemy's about to do a big mojo thing. She calls a giant lightning bolt and then just like, what a guess. Take a nap now. Nap time.
Well, it sounds like you might have finished up on there.
Yeah. As usual, Axe and some other people in the chat ask me prompted questions. Gets me. I could start a solo podcast about Mages of War lore, but I don't want to do that because nobody would listen. Well, not nobody, but, like, It would probably be even worse viewpoints than our APs, which already do not do super good. You should check out the APs. They're cool. Great for killing. I know there's a little bit of a backlog. Like our Star Wars sessions is literally, that AP is literally 90 episodes long.
A lot.
But like, you can get, the backlog is still there. You can check it out. Mages of War is only, I think, 24-ish episodes for the Alkebalon campaign's first season. And then we got the playtest game, which I know, it sounds like dog shit. Our mic quality was not good, but it exists, and it's like 3 sessions. You'd think, since that was like 5 years ago or more, no, 5 sounds about right, Omega would have learned about what he means by one-shot and not, but no. But yes, you were right. I think that is the some point stuff I have at this time.
And like I said, I've just been focusing on playing while Omega talks, so you have something to watch at least.
Yeah. Seems like you've been doing a lot of stuff. I keep, eyeballing the screen, the preview window.
Mm-hmm.
I see you have glowy hands right now.
Poison!
Yeah, I'm just thinking, there's a couple of different jokes I could make there, but you just rolling around with your glowing poison hands. Looks metal, though.
Oh, yeah. Actually, the more I play this, I'm also kind of getting some World of Warcraft vibes from this. And like in some aspects.
WoW definitely would have been, I don't know about the height of popularity, but it definitely would have been cool in 12.
Mm-hmm.
We could debate whether or not WoW is cool. Oh, actually, though, that reminds me. You're not playing your usual Final Fantasy 14 today.
No. But we did. I can actually. Yeah, I'm glad you reminded me of that.
Yeah.
But not playing Final Fantasy, like I said, because I played it last week. I didn't know if people wanted just
to see you decorate more.
Yeah, no, I like decorating.
Some people like that.
But we actually had our last live letter from the producer, in which Yoshi P gets on and talks to us several hours. Yesterday, he actually had a bit of a downer to lead us off. Yesterday, because in Walker, the expansion, not the final expansion, but the last part of the current story, this is important, was originally supposed to come out in 2 weeks, but due to the fact that they took a little bit extra time polishing it, they weren't actually able to get into the debugging phase quickly, so they had to push it back for another 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Yes, so it will not be till December that we can get onto it. But other than that, they actually did release their launch trailer. It shows off a bunch of gameplay and a bunch of talking and stuff. It's very exciting. Like little information here and there. Showed off some of the music. Showed off.
Immortal? Is this Wenson's idea?
All that crazy stuff. I'm very excited. Some people are upset at the delay. Most aren't. Other people are like, it's just 2 weeks. The most people who are upset are the people who like took time off.
Yeah, I understand. When you're pre-planning and then your plans change.
You're like, no.
Got pretty close, but like, what can you do?
Yeah. But I hear people are trying to adjust their plans and whatnot and get on with stuff. But that's very exciting. Like, I can't really, nail any direct details about Final Fantasy 14, but it's just kind of like, oh, God, it's so cool. Like, you guys should check out the gameplay launch trailer and just see, the locations and stuff. And the stuff, because, like I said, Final Fantasy 14, I think, is really one of the most interesting Final Fantasy, games out there, because it has literally no bones about, was this cool in that other Final Fantasy? Fuck yeah, it is. Let's use it here. It literally just smashes all Final Fantasy concepts together. Like, in this next expansion, we're getting the Magus sisters and fucking Anima as battles. And I'm just all like, yeah, no, it's like, why not? Like, we're having themes from Final Fantasy 4 pop up. And I can't remember anything off the top of my head, but it's like, I'm excited. I'm glad to be a part of this. I'm glad to be here. And I'm sorry, I pre-ordered it, so I got access to the early access, which means like 4 days before it actually releases, I can get in. I had taken off days for it, but now I'm probably just gonna cancel that days and just be like, whatever. So we should prepare like the weekend of the 3rd. Just actually, shit, I have to check. Can I stream it early?
That is a very good question. You should check your agreement, because that is that weekend.
Yeah.
Better they had cut their
That'll be the 4th.
A kinder fate.
Will be our what's up that's in December.
Yeah, so we'll be because
you can definitely isn't actually I shouldn't say but I thought is it December the 11th?
It's December the 7th.
7th. Okay, so yeah, by the 11th you'll definitely.
Yeah, by the 11th definitely, but.
You should definitely, because there will probably be some cutscenes and stuff. You should definitely double check what your like early access stuff says about whether or not you can stream it.
They probably will have something like Square Enix's like community facing bit is like I think considered one of the best. Like
I did see a meme that was not very kind to WoW, but it did talk about video game redemption arcs, and it did mention to bring up the fact that Final Fantasy XIV is very communicative with its player base, and actually, like, when the game was really bad, we're like, yo, dog, we're sorry, we're making the game better. They made the game really better, and it's a really, good game now that people really like.
Yeah, no, so, Yoshi P, the man at the top, frequently will write letters to the community explaining things are going on. Like, when he announced the delay, he posted a letter, and he apologized like every 3 sentences for this.
That's very Japanese. But also, I like the public interaction. It reminds me of, Mr. Sakurai Presents. Like, Sakurai would come on and be like, hey, how you doing?
Like, they are... Yeah, no.
I like these more intimate moments. I mean, I think it's funny, when a trailer comes out and Hideo Kojima won't shut up on Twitter for like 2 hours. That's also fun. But, like, developers who still do this kind of, like, sit down like, hey, what's up? Let me talk. They throw their leg over the chair, Riker style. The fucking Captain America PSAs and Spider-Man. Hey, how's it going?
But...
Ooh, it is getting cold down here. It is 51 degrees outside.
It's like a couple weeks ago, they actually updated their terms of service in regards to griefing, trolling, and whatnot, and people were quite upset because I actually tweeted about this in the broad sense that I usually like to. What did I say again? Excuse me.
But I remember the vagueness tweet.
Yeah, hold on.
I think it was better like half-assed rules are better than no-assed rules, I think, was the gist. Like, the fact that they're doing something and they actually are making efforts is way more important than whether or not the rules are, like, comprehensive enough.
Yeah, let's see. So I wrote 2 tweets on this. Are the new rules/guidelines for Final Fantasy XIV perfect? Hell no. Are they kind of hit or miss in some areas? Definitely. Are they better than doing absolutely nothing? For sure. Do they affect people who are kind, decent, and understanding people to begin with? Not at all. Then I have a follow-up tweet. It's, if you have issue with a platform taking measures, even weird ones, to stop people from being raging assholes without consequences, and don't empathize with the reasons why, it's most likely because you're the asshole this affects the most.
Yeah, it's one of those things. You should be careful about throwing stones in glass houses, right? Like,
yeah.
If you're concerned, if the rules are not written in such a way that everybody is concerned because, like, oh no, these rules could get applied to literally anything. That happens sometimes. Rules are vague and bad. But like, if they're like, gee, I don't know if these rules about like trolling and griefing are good because they might apply to me. Well, buddy, you should ask some questions about yourself then. You should ask why they might apply to you. What have you been doing lately? What have you been up to, huh?
Like, I remember people were getting mad because they wouldn't be able to tell people to pull big in dungeons, because in Final Fantasy XIV, since everyone has such clearly defined roles, tanks are usually regulated to grabbing all the monsters so the DPS can, burn them down.
Yep.
And usually what people want to happen is they want the tank to grab every fucking thing so they can get the dungeon done like 5 minutes faster. But Like I said, everyone does. Everyone learns how to tank at some point, and not everyone is comfortable doing that. Before, it was completely okay for people to just kind of scream at them to make fucking to do fucking big pools. That's what everyone does. That's how we fucking do it. Fucking do it. And now you can't do that. You literally can't. You can get reported for that. But they so a lot of people were concerned. It was like, oh, what? I can't like do that, but I can't do that anymore. And Screener was all like, no, you can. You just can't be an asshole about it. You have to, you know, ask if the tank is comfortable with doing big pools.
Yeah, they basically like, okay, what we're against is we don't want you to fucking post your, you know, your web macro pull big in all caps.
Yeah.
Like, if the tank isn't doing a good job or you want him to do something different, especially, you should not just shout in all caps, pull big.
Yeah.
You should ask, hey, buddy, can you pull a bit bigger?
Yeah.
Can you grab more guys for me?
Mm.
You know, that is the normal way in a workplace environment which you're supposed to handle these problems.
Yes.
Like you don't go to the photocopier. Not that I've ever worked an office job, but I understand how humans work. You don't go to the photocopier and yell to Jim, big toner. You're like, hey Jim, can I get some more toner down here? And then Jim's like, no, we're out of toner. And then you're like, damn you, supply closet.
So, but like, again, when they first came out with this, there was a lot of like people like concerned, a little bit of people outraged, and like, not even a day later, they actually did a follow-up letter being like, oh no, this is what, like, we're gonna clarify this a little bit. But they also definitely did not like, they did not back down. It's like, no, we don't want people to be assholes in our fucking game. They didn't say fucking assholes.
Yeah, but we got the impression.
Yeah. Because like, Final Fantasy 14, they've been talking about this a while. Like ever since the great WoW Diaspora. Is it Diaspora? I think it's like
Diaspora.
We've had a lot of new players, and they've been bringing in over their habits and whatnot. So, you know.
Yeah, and also I think it's a good idea to like, if you're getting a lot of new players, to like teach them the new etiquette, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know. Like, if these players are new and they're working on the very defined mechanics, they may not be familiar with the ethos. It might be better to, like, teach them to, like, no, you know, we ask about these things.
Yeah.
Not freak out about it and stuff. Good. Oh, sure. And also, yes, by the way, there is a little bit of a WoW diaspora, mostly because some people have Concernicus about giving Activision Blizzard money. Because they're not doing really great at some stuff right now. Also, in general, like I've heard some people talking about a little bit of how they feel like WoW is a little bit like kind of stuck in a rut. Like they're not really like addressing the greater community. They certainly don't seem to, from what I understand. Not an MMO guy, but what I understand is they do not seem to have that community-facing aspect that Final Fantasy XIV has made kind of their thing.
Oh yeah.
Like, it's communication is very important, and obviously, like. We've talked about this. I love transparency, but I also understand sometimes people don't really want transparency.
Mm.
Like, actually being transparent sometimes benefits nobody, and can be harmful. Like, there's some stuff that you don't necessarily want to be transparent about, just because it's just like not polite to bring up. Like,
also,
we're not usually transparent about like how much money we're making exactly, because maybe, you know, it's not a lot, maybe it's a lot. We don't want to make anybody feel weird. But like. Transparency is cool, but in general, open communication is what's important.
Oh, yeah.
So that line of communication, really good.
No, like I said, like ever since I got back into 14 this year, like I've been keeping up with a lot of their stuff, and man, going to their digital fan fest was kind of amazing again. Like they have like Yoshi P, you know, top guy, well, top Final Fantasy 14 guy.
Yeah, director.
Director is
also director on 16.
Yep. I do like that every once in a while we'll get like 16 news because he's just talking about it like on stream. But like that's the thing.
He just fucking shows up and is like, "Hey guys, I know you're here for 14, but also working on this other game. Have you heard of it? It's Final Fantasy 16. We're working on that. We're doing stuff." Anyway.
but he constantly like shows up to his events in cosplay. He constantly cracks jokes. He seems like a chill dude, and he talks to the community. You know, he's not some CEO in a suit and a fucking in a skyscraper. No, he's usually in like slacks and some sort of graphic T-shirt. He has
he seems approachable, right? Because like we've all watched E3, right, kids? We've seen the difference between like sometimes you get those CEOs. Like I think I've talked about this before. Like I actually think that like the current head of Xbox, Phil Spencer, is kind of in a similar way. Like he's usually T-shirt and blazer kind of a thing. He seems relaxed. He seems about talking about the player base, right? I'm not a big Xbox guy, but he seems like he's communicating. This is a thing when he was working for Nintendo. Reggie Fils-Aimé was famous for. Like he was very well known for like being kind of approachable and a meme guy. So much so that he's famous enough that they occasionally bring him back to like do like shows and stuff as like host and do announcements, right?
That's true.
So like that's different than like seeing a fucking Zoom call with a guy in a tightly pressed iron shirt, telling you about CEO stuff that we don't care about. I'm trying to think. I think there was one more. But also, if you weren't here, if you didn't catch earlier, Legendary chat, I did say it reminds me a lot of like this kind of ethos is like Mr. Sakurai, right? Like, some devs just come and hang. It's not exclusively Japanese devs, like I said. There's some Western devs who also do this kind of thing. But sometimes people are weird too.
Looking at you, Gearbox.
Gearbox is very weird, and they're not like cool weird like Devolver.
Devolver weird is its own kind of special though.
Yes. Also, gosh, fuck. I can picture his face. I almost said his dumb face. His face isn't that dumb. The concept people use faces. The Bethesda head. Not Pete Hines, but the
Todd Howard
head. Todd Howard, thank you. Like, usually Todd Howard and Pete Hines come out and talk all friendly to you, but sometimes they also feel a little awkward about stuff talking about. Like they're reading a little too strict from the teleprompter. It's not a real conversation. But they're business guys. They got stuff. But Todd Howard, I don't think Todd Howard's face is actually stupid. I just think, like I said, a lot of people cut out his face and they put it in stupid content.
I mean,
the man says mean. Not mean things. Mean things. Sorry, I'm killing time a little bit there. I'm trying to think. There was something in between the 14 conversation I was thinking about. Lost. I'm trying to see.
Oh, it came back.
Stuff. No, I don't think anything to talk. I don't know. Maybe it was the Final Fantasy 14 thing, and I forgot that I already brought it up. You were getting fireballed a lot, Mike.
Yeah, this dude's he's ranged. He's being a dick.
Nope. You gotta switch your shield. Seems like you can switch like.
Yeah, I have a shield, but.
Knock him out of his weird glowy thing. That is also somebody brought up an example. Apparently with the Nicktoon Brawl game, their own mascot fighter.
Oh, what about it?
Which is apparently pretty crazy. But like, they had some kind of problem, and they literally just said like, "Hey, sorry, our netcode guy's on vacation. We'll let him know when he gets back." Like, that's the kind of like good transparency. Like, just straight up like, yeah, our guy for this, our head of this department is on fucking vacation. We can't get it right now. We'll let him know when he's back at the office. Like, most people will at least publicly not be assholes about that because the dude's taking a fucking vacation. Are you gonna be fucking rude about it? You don't know his life. You know? They're avoiding crunch. He's taking a vacation.
Yeah.
He's not being overworked. So yeah, it's kind of an interesting back and forth there, and that is the good kind of transparency where like actually bringing it up does not necessarily go there.
But like after we get done with here, I'll probably play this a little bit more and then go back to Final Fantasy.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Probably poke Guardians. Play New Plus. Be chillax stuff while I do.
Yeah, like I said, I'm excited for the Sprawl tomorrow if we play. If not, that's fine too.
Like I said, Dallas says he should be free. We should be going to that. Getting into it. We'll do, like I said, probably do some planning. I got all the stuff out there. The notes. It should be fun. I don't always know why I get struck with these flights of fancy to do the write down, but
what is? So I think we should wind down. We've been here what, 3 hours?
Yeah, we're over 3 hours. 3 1/4. We clocked enough time.
I think that's good.
And I, like I said, literally can't remember what something else I was going to bring up was, so I think it's good.
I mean, if you do, you can bring it up Monday, I guess.
Yeah, that is. We've talked about this. That is how our Monday streams go sometimes. Is they become the parking lot for shit we didn't talk about on WhatsApp. We forgot. Oops.
Yeah.
It's okay. We need to kill time. Alan Wake is cool, but like, big portions of it are just you running through the woods, getting hatchets thrown at your head. That's not really a conversation starter.
No.
I think so far it seems like the audience enjoys, and we enjoy certainly when like listening to certain like radio calls or TV programs, we just sit down and shut the fuck up and like let it go, right?
Yeah. I think that's fine.
Good. It's good for the game. Because the game is cool. Well, I was about to say it's fun. It's a fun stream. I don't know. Sometimes you seem very frustrated, but you've talked about it a lot that on stream.
Yeah.
And y'all should go watch those streams. Instead of just hearing us yak about it. Go watch stream. Ah, wait, no, I've got it back. I remembered.
Oh, okay.
I'll wrap up with this. Okay, yeah, because I would talk about streaming, like watching stuff. That reminded me. I was gonna talk a little bit about some like stuff. Which is I talked about this a little bit on Fail Portrayal this week. We did a little Halloween special with some stuff. It was fun. You guys should check it out if you haven't. I know it's kind of been weird, but it's good. Check it out. We cover 2 archetypes. We get double the stuff done. On there, I mentioned, though, because it's a really cool set, but based on my current budgeting, I am planning on doing that thing I talked about where I want to pick up and buy a display case of the gold set they're doing, premium gold set, maximum gold Eldorado. Because it's got some really fucking nice cards in there, and I would love to open up a lot. Like I said, I've kind of been like shilling that idea a little bit, so I'd like to like integrate it with content. I talked about this, and I actually did some like Googling on what people's setup is, and a lot of people do just do it on their phones. So I have a box of the next set, Burst of Destiny, coming. It's been ordered. It's been being shipped to me. So when that comes, I think I will probably do an experiment and try and stream pack opening that from my phone just to see how easy it is, or if I need to get like a standalone camera rig. Well, not really a rig. I got a tripod that should be good for many kinds of cameras, but like, you know what I mean, right? Like if I need to do further development infrastructure of the project. But I will be experimenting with that and seeing how that goes to see if we can do future card pack opening stuff, because I'm Fail Portrayal on the progression. If you haven't checked in progression, I will also let you know, because I talked about getting it but not doing it. I did complete my Millennium Puzzle. It's sitting on top of my desk right now. It was a little bit of a pain in the ass, because everything is snap fit, and some of the bits don't actually snap fit until you put in like 2 more pieces.
Oof. So
there were times when I was building this thing where I felt like I needed 4 hands to hold all the bits, but I got it done. I did occasionally have to look up how a couple of pieces were supposed to go, because like most of the pieces are self-explanatory, but some stuff have some like you want to like hook and flip and slide, and I'm like, what the fuck? How does this stay in?
Oops.
Oh, this is how it works. I think my only real complaint is all the pieces are numbered, but the number guide you get as the quote-unquote instructions are like not necessarily indicative, because there's like no fucking sense of scale. Like literally at times I'm holding a giant piece that looks small in the picture, and I'm like, is this piece 24? I kind of wish that since there are internal surfaces, they had like labeled the pieces with their numbers in spots you'd never see, but whatever. I guess that's how you do it. So it's nice. It's actually, like, surprisingly... it's probably because Yugi's a fucking midget. Tiny. I don't mean any offense to short people, but, like, the man is, like, literally, like, drawn like he's 4 feet tall. And he gains a foot when he becomes Yami Yugi. It's really weird. And he gets tall later, so it's not like he has dwarfism. He's just really short at 15. He's so tiny. So the puzzle looks huge on him. It fits like comfortably in my palm, you know. Like it rests there. It doesn't like, I can't like close my fist around it, but you know what I mean. But it's actually like, even though it's all just like plastic, it's surprisingly weighty. I like it. I think someday I'll probably get like a little chain or a band to hang it on, stick it in a little soft case. I do kind of concerned that if it falls or bangs its corners against anything, it's gonna like fucking explode. Because like I said, everything's just snap fitty. But it's nice. I talked about a little one progression. It did not help me. I do kind of want to mention to people, because I've had some post-game Carnage thoughts on it. I hope you've checked out this week's episode of Progression Tournament. But if you don't, I don't blame you, because it was a weird one. It's our longest episode ever. It's 3.5 hours long. And you may think, oh, well, it's a week that's divisible by 5. You do your unbans in those weeks. No. That's only like the last 30 minutes at chipmunk time. 1.5 speed. No. The whole thing is like really long. And really weird. I don't know if the episode is good or not. I won't like spoil some of the matchups, but like everybody I think had like big runs of abysmally bad luck. Like I like got bodied pretty hard in my game 1, and then my second game I like drew a perfect hand and clapped back, and I won't tell you how the third game ended up. So I went to game 3 in my first round. So you can figure out where like we had a lot of different stuff going on. Some people were very unlucky in terms of their their drawing and stuff. Yeah, like I don't want to say the whole episode is bad. You should definitely watch Dallas and Axe in round 1. They had a 3-game match that went to 50 minutes. Jesus. It is some of the longest running and most dynamic Yu-Gi-Oh! We've had in a long-ass time. Unfortunately, not the whole episode is that good. We had some blowouts, we had some misplays. Like I said, everybody had abysmal luck, I think, all the time. Like, nobody was getting good draws. It was really clunky. Some people got salty about some stuff. At different points in the night, Loth and Marth had some, like, tech diff stuff, which, gets a little, I mean, I'll say it. I mean, I understand, when I'm trying to do work, internet problems bother me, but in particular, Loth and Marth get really salty when they have connection problems. So, like, their moods are soured by the night. Like, other people's moods are soured by, like, misplays and stuff. And some of us, like, I actually wasn't that salty, but, like, I was definitely like, I don't think I did great. And so it's just a weird episode that really, like, drags in some places and is very dynamic in others. And if you want to check it out, I wish you luck. And, so see it. You'll see some stuff. We're going to have a interesting one next week because it's a very important set. For people who know, it's Lords of the Tachyon Galaxy. Very interesting cards come out in it, which are related to my current alias on our Discord server.
I did just like look over. It's like, what is his name again?
No, I'm Dragon Ruler Omega, and my profile picture is Blaster Dragon Ruler of Infernos. And rulers, guys, rulers, as some people say. That'll be really interesting because those cards are very notorious for like completely changing the meta in real life. So we'll see how that goes. Because they're OP as fuck. Luckily they're banned, so we're only playing 1 copy each with our traditional rules, where you play. There's no ban list; there's only limited. But they were at rare slots, so they're very populous. Yeah, and you've got time codes. Thanks to Marth's contributions on time codes, you guys can skip around some of the matches and stuff in progression. But like, I am interested what people say. I have some thoughts. I have developed a joke, hopefully not at the audience's expense, but also like in general to the audience, because I have noticed that every single time I or anybody has objected to a deck being played in progression, there's almost at least one commenter in the audience is like, I don't know what you're talking about. That deck's fine. I love to see you guys having fun. And I'm like, we're not having fun though. This deck is anti-fun, but whatever. You guys, if you're having fun watching the concept, it's fine. But like, we're not necessarily having fun playing. So I make a couple cracks about that. And it's showed up in the comments already. Like, it's an interesting episode. I think it does a lot of stuff for us. We have some very Like, if you're interested in like how the rules are going, do actually like pop to the end and check out our unbanned period, because we talk about some new rules. And what I call telling Konami to eat my shorts, the whitelist, where we decide cards are not actually banned because Konami is wrong, or at the very least is wrong 10 years ago. So yeah, hopefully we will do something more interesting for week 46, and it will definitely not be as fast, because I know Martha's taking a break. Robin is out because he was in this week, so we'll probably have one of our little baby 5-man brackets, and that should probably go by pretty fast.
Okay.
Want to try and make it 3? No, I shouldn't. We shouldn't switch to. There's an ongoing debate about when we go to every game is best of 3, because currently it's the first round is best of 3 because that gives you a chance to show off, and then the semis and finals are 1 match only because they can be quite long. I don't think I want to set any. We might. I don't think this is a spoiler, but I think somebody did get Spellbook of Judgment and trade it to Dallas, so he can finally complete his Piece de Resistance for Spellbooks. We'll see. Go, watch the episode. Like I said, at the very least, if you want to see what kind of strategies we're working with, like look at our unban. We did some interesting stuff with the whitelist and probation and banning and unbanning. And like between mics, there was a little bit of stress. I wasn't that salty about the game. I did get a little short with people at the end because like there was a lot of discussion about what bans would be most appropriate, and like I was like straight up like, I don't have a really good ban, guys. Like I jobbed the lid in round 1, but I don't actually want to pick on that deck necessarily. So like, what should I be doing? And everybody was like, well, I don't know. And it's like, well, yeah, but you guys, I feel like you guys are objecting to my thoughts. So like, what do you? It was kind of like a microcosm of our Star Wars problem, right? I was like, okay, guys, I have to, by the rules, make a choice, and you guys are not necessarily giving me any input on what you think is best or that I would go for. I have to make some shit up. I mean, yeah, there's definitely we have some interesting conversations. I've had talks with people about various things that I think are like conductive to the game.
He is fervor embodied. He is
one of them is I think I've had this conversation with Dallas a little bit about, we're playing in a limited format, right? You know, we open virtual packs, we work with what we got. You can do some kind of like trading and stuff to keep our economy stimulated. Do something different from a lot of other thing. Yeah, but I don't like Maxi. And you're the only one with Maxi X, so that's how bans work. You played it. You activated Max C. It's your own fault. You could have saved that until it was like really relevant. But no, one of the things I've had a conversation with Dallas about a couple of times is him phrasing decks as like, oh, you need 3 of that. And I'm like, no. Competitively, you would play 3 of that card, but we're playing in a limited format. I want to get people out of the idea they need to be playing 3 of all their good cards, because it kind of turns into a clusterfuck where like 3 people get like 50% or even like 60 or 75% of the way to a deck, and they're like, all right, I need 3 copies of this card, and it's like, well, then all the copies like go away. It's like we get into like scrabbling for scraps about stuff, and like I'm just like, all right, I think this is kind of stressful and annoying. We should relax on that a little. And another thing is like we try to keep the crosstalk as like preemptively discussing our ban phase like all throughout the episode. That crosstalk happens a couple of times. Maybe we can like try and cut back on that. Sometimes it's like very obvious where we're like in the episode we either start joking about stuff or we like, you know, when an episode happens to go to a very OP card that is possibly banned in real life, you know, it's very common for the guy who lost to go, well, that guy's getting banned. Get rid of that card, you know. But there's some crosstalk on stuff. So we'll see how stuff shakes out. But that was my last thing that I was thinking I remembered. I managed to stretch that out for another like 15 minutes. We're almost at 3:30 now. Now I think I've remembered all my stuff and I'm ready to wrap up.
Alrighty.
Like I said, I am a little concerned about the. So I wanted to bring it up there and think about my thoughts, and it's a weird episode, but okay. It's my final thing that I remembered at the last minute. Lucky, I think, already gave his pass on any of his final thoughts, but if you've got any, smoke him if you got him.
Nope, I got none.
All right, he's already smoked. He's pre-smoked everybody. Jerky.
I was thinking about making some jerky.
All right. Then, let us do the outro.
Alrighty.
Soz, if you like this episode, give us a like on YouTube. We are currently at 9 concurrent viewers and 6 likes. So, 3 of you be slacking. If you've got any comments, leave in the comment section down below. You can also reach us on our Discord. That link is always on the video description and on our channel page. Check it out. Discord is cool. If you are new here and haven't already, please subscribe to our channel to follow our podcast here. What's up? Follow our other streams and other video content and stuff. Check this sort out. Even if you're already subscribed, also make sure to ring that bell for notifications. You always know when we post a new video or when we stream. It's very helpful for when the power goes out and I have to post videos at a weird time because, you know, my lights are fucking off and I can't do the work. Act of God. So consider ringing that bell. It's just good for you and gives you the views. Lets you know. You can also support us by joining our channel membership. Get access to membership badges and emotes. A real fun time. You can also, of course, super chat or super thanks if you want to thank us that way on YouTube. But, of course, like I said earlier in the show, you can always also consider supporting us on Patreon. You can get access to videos early. You can get access to the audio format of the show for as little as $1 a month or about $10 a year. Downloadable. Our entire back catalog as well, if you ever want to go on an archive binge. And at higher levels, you know, like I said, videos early, access to topic polls for podcasts and stuff. Occasionally behind the scenes and other weird random things when I test stuff. And earlier access lets you listen to our other podcasts, Let's Talk Geo Live, access to other things, other shoutouts. It's cool. It supports us. And that's everything I got. So as soon as Lucky is done stabbing this wolf.
Yeah, we'll get on out of here. See you next time, everyone.
Bye.